assets in many communities, and what we've done per community is different. So you go to a community, you deploy tools that best suits the community. And part of the tools we do is, of course, yes, you are looking for the organized union, their community leadership. You are looking for what's the state government interest, what's the state government interest, what are the people interest, and you'll be shocked that every category I've mentioned have different interests that you then must meet. Another key thing we've done over the years is that, especially for new projects, as we are planning the project, community engagement or our community engagement plan is as good as the project itself. So you see us sometimes, for example, the plants we deployed, the CNG facility just spoke about, when we're about starting off the project, we had about 6 locations we're looking to deploy the assets. And some of the things we used to finally pick the final location where we are today is some of the risks we see we will face with it. And just to wrap it up, you cannot but emphasize technology, right? Our security architecture also give room for technology, right? Whereby we use every security infrastructure available to ensure that these assets are well secured. And if any tampering is done, we are also at alert and we know what to do per time. But I can tell you for free that we do a lot of social investment in any community we operate in, and we form that base relationship that ensures that it's a shared prosperity.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Damilare. We're just keeping to time. Okay. Just continue along the lines of gas as well. We have Mr. Taher here from NNPC. A lot of embedded generators, these days are seeking to integrate gas alongside renewables in their energy solutions, right? So it would be good to understand, how NNPC is contributing as a participant and stakeholder in facilitating market access for embedded generation through natural gas, whether through piped or CNG. I mean, despite the potential easier access in areas like Lagos, how does NNPC plan to address challenges that developers face, which of course we know are more pronounced like in the northern regions? So if you could just quickly help us go through that. Yeah.
Right, thank you so much, Osa. Incidentally, NNPC Limited is a player along the value chain. As you all know, we have rechristened ourselves to be known as an energy company. So we play right from exploration all the way to power generation. The power industry is very, very synonymous to gas because we all know that over 80% of the power generation capacity that we have in the country is dependent on gas supply. So gas is very, very important. We're doing a lot. From about 2008, when the first gas master plan was passed, a lot has been done. We've been working on infrastructure. In the papers or in the media, I'm sure a lot of you would have been seeing the AKK pipeline, the OB3 pipeline. These are massive gas transportation infrastructure. In fact, the AKK is about 614 kilometers. The very first gas pipeline in the north, it stretches from Jakarta all the way to Kano, and would be delivering a capacity of about 2 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day. That's huge. That's a lot. And I can guarantee you that a lot of that gas volumes will be going to power. Now, yes, so we have a pipeline, but of course, we do virtual. Virtual pipeline is another thing, and my colleague here on the panel just spoke about CNG. But you know one thing about CNG? From economics, it's very clear that if you have to move from the mother station to more than 250 kilometers, it becomes not economically viable. So what's your alternative? The alternative actually is LNG. So NNPC is also involved in development of mini LNG. Today, we're looking at about 2 mini LNG plants in Ajakuta, and that's just to bridge the gap on gas supply and ensuring that those embedded initiatives in the north at least have a steady supply of gas. But maybe I'll round up by asking a question, and I'm hoping that our audience here, the policymakers, would take that into consideration. I just managed to print, a clear picture on the interrelationship between gas and power. So one thing we need to take into cognizance is that you spend Forex to develop gas. At the end of the day, the end user pays in Naira to get that power. And this is just one of the issues. There's several other issues. Can we actually look at this segment right from exploration for gas, production of gas, all the way to power offtake? I think we need to look at that chain holistically. The policies, the regulations have to cover from gas production to power offtake. Let's stop the silo regulation or policies. I think that is the only way we can actually move forward in ensuring there is sufficient gas to generate sufficient power for the benefit of Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tare, and that's an excellent question at the end. Hopefully, one of our other sessions that we might have some financiers on, they could possibly shed some light on that. But let's shift gears a little bit towards the disco. So, Ikeja Electric being one of the, we'll say, forward-thinking discos, currently even exploring the embedded generation business model that RMI developed in partnership with the UK Pact. It'll be good to hear from you now and understand, the distribution companies play a crucial role in integrating embedded generation into the grid. What are the main challenges that discos face in accommodating and integrating embedded generation projects?
All right, thank you very much. And I think I'll just go straight to the question. From the disco perspective, there have been a lot of challenges, but we keep finding innovative ways to resolve those issues. One of the things that we've seen over time is that more than ever before, it's very important for discos and developers to start to have very honest, frank, good faith conversations that is built on very transparent framework. We've seen situations where, for example, developers that you're engaging with are not willing to share the details of their financial model. And then you start to wonder, if I'm building an embedded project and I don't understand the basis of the costs that I'm carrying, how do you, in a fair way, carry those costs that are going to pass through to the customers and then defend before the regulator? So that's very important that we start to have very transparent conversation. Sometimes you encounter the challenge of network rehabilitation costs in some locations that you want to develop such a project for. But that's why innovatively, now we're putting franchising into the mix where you can get third party to at least invest in your network. Traditionally, when you're developing a project, you want that project to be bankable, so that the third party or the developer can also raise funding. And of course, if you are doing that, you want to ensure that you're able to recover the cost of your investment. And you want to ask for bank guarantee, which is standard. But the discourse today, you struggle to provide such a security instrument, knowing the situation of things where accounts are escrow, there is a waterfall system in the market. But again, thankfully, we have the secondary escrow arrangement, which we are also selling to developers to say, this is how we can make this work. But we still find that some developers are still not comfortable with that secondary escrow arrangement. But of course, with the engagement with the regulator, hopefully we'll start to see how effective it can be, such that ultimately all parties can be happy. For the disco point of view as well, one of the things you look at is your challenge of revenue assurance, loss reduction. So you are mindful, for example, you are taking up such a project, you are putting in place security instruments, and ultimately you also want to manage your loss reduction downstream. So you then have to ensure that from the part of the project development, that you put in place all of those instruments, ensure that the customers are fully metered, you have invested in your network, they are strengthened, you have all your loss reduction mechanisms in place such that ultimately the essence of trying to deliver power to customers, you are not exposed to huge losses. And then the project is bankable for everybody. I mean, there are so many things, but I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. So let's shift gears now towards REAN. As the president of REAN and also a developer yourself, let's wear your REAN hat right now and take a more holistic view on the renewable energy sector. There are several initiatives to support Nigeria's power sector. What are the key challenges you've identified that hinders the sector's development, particularly in relation to improving electricity access and reliability?
Thank you. So, from the developer's perspective, the whole gathering that we're having here in the next 1 or 2 days is just basically around the developers. So, from the developer's perspective, I want to say that the first challenge we're having is you're like the guinea pig. Because this is fresh in Nigeria, it's new, so we're all trying to test out those policies and regulations with our investment. Let's put it in quote that way. New to the developers, new to the DISCO, new to the federal government saying that, okay, let's go decentralized. Yes, the truth about it is that decentralized energy, renewable energy sources infusing into the grid would help us to scale. So we have that first challenge, everybody trying to understand the best way to go about this new rule. The second challenge we have is the need to do a lot of investment in the infrastructure that you are embedding in, investing in the distribution, investing in metering, investing in different other feeders, and other things. So you have a huge investment that, just like Victor said, that is not on the generation side, but it's on the distribution and the infrastructure across. It's a whole package more than what you might be thinking about. The advantage for us as developers, or let's use in the world of the REA right now as RESCOs that are trying to do all this for our members, is that the advantage is we can access funds. That's just the truth. We have the ability to still be able to access fund to invest in the structure towards this investment because it aligns with the energy transition goal of the country, it aligns with the energy transition plan of the world. So there are funds that can be accessed. So we have that challenge of saying, okay, how do we fix this infrastructure? Knowing fully well that you want to share the responsibility of infrastructure fixing, but some of the DISCOs or most of the DISCOs, would not be able to invest in those infrastructure right now as they have some other operational stuff they want to invest in. So that become another challenge that we have. Another challenge that we're facing right now is we need a scale up in human capacity development. The scale of the trouble or the challenge we are having in Nigeria for energy access creation needs thousands of engineers. So there is a need for us to begin to look at that, but I think I will talk further on that later. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll just shift gears towards our regulator. From a regulator's perspective, what are the key gaps or lack of regulatory knowledge that currently hinder the widespread adoption of embedded generation and franchising model in Nigeria's power sector? It's a broad question. I know we have both the embedded generation regulation as well as the franchising guidelines. But you can help us out.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I will start by saying that probably the gap that we could see that exists previously had to do with some flexibility or lack thereof on the side of the regulator, because I have to put that out there. I think some years back, the way the embedded generation was conceived was more or less as a complement to the grid supply capability of the generation companies, of the network provider, the transmission companies of Nigeria. But I was aware that there was some proposal that came to the commission during that period, and they were thinking of charging a tariff that was relatively different from the multi-year tariff put in place during that period. And for certain reasons or the other, it was rejected. That kind of incident probably contributed to the reason people did not really make use of the opportunity provided by the regulation. Of course, we wouldn't blame the commission for taking that position during that time, because regulation is dynamic. As at that time, there was a particular purpose for which that regulation was put in place, and probably which didn't align with the issue of having price differential. And I will take you to this current SBT, which we introduced in 2020. Until 2020, probably nobody thought of having that segmentation in tariff, of having defining tariff on the basis of the quality of supply that consumer enjoy. So that's probably one of the things. And I think one other thing is, on the side of the operator, there appears to be maybe a lack of willingness in reading and understanding the existing regulatory instruments, and where there exists maybe some concern, trying as much as possible to engage with the regulator to find out what were the intendments of those provisions that were contained in those regulations. I think that's probably one of the things. Of course, when I made a few remarks the other time, I said there are some other regulatory instruments that the Commission will have to look at, or probably looking at. For instance, the issue of feed-in tariff has come down without number. Also, the issue of secondary escrow arrangement came last year, which we dealt with. I put it in place. All those things are done just to ensure that we, as much as possible, provide opportunity for transaction to take place outside the normal Genco, embed, disco transactional arrangements. So I think people should, both the investors and the discos, they will need to look at the secondary escrow arrangement, how it works. Currently, we have a guinea pig. Port Harcourt Disco already got an approval to operate a secondary escrow arrangement for 12 megawatts from one of the FIPL power plants. Of course, we want that to come up, or people to make use of that as we begin this journey of embedded renewable generation, because we really want to promote it. It's absolutely necessary. Yeah. Forget it goes beyond transition to achieve net zero carbon economy. Is about reliability of supply and security of supply in our own setting, largely. Because when you hear of system collapse and so on because of the fragility of the grid, if you have embedded generation, even if it's targeted, those targeted customers will still be having supply if there is a problem at the 330, 132 kV network level. So I think the Commission is open. We know that we don't know it all, and my colleague usually says that we are open to any suggestion from developers, investors, and so on. Let's look at the existing regulations and see what are the gaps, what are the things that we need to look at in order to ensure that we provide the necessary regulatory assurance. I'm very happy that because of this, signing of different agreements by the government. There seems to be policy interest in promoting renewable in Nigeria. So we are working together, and we continue to give you assurance that as far as the regulator is concerned, we are poised to promote this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. Still on regulatory, right? We'll move over to Mr. Victor. We would like to hear from a developer standpoint. What regulatory reforms or policy interventions do you suggest mitigating investment risk and will attract more developers to the Nigerian power sector? There has been the push to increase the maximum generation capacity from the threshold from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts. And we also know that there's the mandate from NERC on 10% of the DISCO's generation for embedded generation, as well as 50% from RE sources. So it would be good to understand your perspective. If NERC were to yield to this, would there be more investment in the sector? How might this drive expansion in the DER sector, basically? Mr. Victor.
So I think, first of all, I think that mandate was, personally, I think it was a great idea, because when you actually set such mandates, you're forcing the DISCOs, for instance, to make sure that they go out of their way to actually source renewable energy in their mix. The one question there is just to now know what are the penalties attributed to it, or how is it going to be enforced, right? Because it's easy to have it's not easy. We've done this in the past where we've set mandates, set targets. When they're not met, there's less of a repercussion, right? So for us, we would like to see this mandate is there. It's to definitely drive the growth and spark interest or have more people come in to tap into that opportunity. But how do we make sure the opportunity stays viable? By ensuring that it's actually adhered to. So penalties in place, or how do you plan to enforce it? It would be great to know that. In terms of regulatory policies that can help, at least from a Daystar perspective, one low-hanging fruit is using the threshold required for a license for captive generation, right? As it stands now, any product 1 megawatt, you need to get the license. And while I have to commend NERC, because getting that license actually straightforward. There's an established timeline, documentation required, you process everything and you get the license. But a lot of times, some people have a fear of, is it actually possible or what's the process like? So I've heard from other developers who have not even bothered to try or who just size it below 1 megawatt to stay within.
What did they say?
We've done it a few times. We've never had any issues, but I think if we increase that threshold to 5 or 10 megawatt, it makes it easier to get a project with a contract and roll it out immediately without having to tell a customer you need to wait 6 months to actually start seeing the full benefits, right? Another potential policy that could be helpful would be waiving of taxes or import duties for renewable energy projects, especially considering the fact that most of these equipment can't or are not manufactured here, or they need to come in, right? We also talk about the potential cost implication in trying to deploy this system. So taking off those duties, waiving some of the taxes in terms of income on those type of projects would make it easier to provide more solutions that are commercially viable and thus push for widespread adoption. The last question mentioned was about mini grid increasing from 1 to 5 megawatt threshold.
Yes.
So we haven't dabbled too much in the mini grid space. My perspective, however, would be, I think it will be a welcome development, right? If you think of a lot of mini grids, most times they are centered around an anchor client that helps make it more bankable. So you have a large or anchor client and then a lot of other clients who are able to reap the benefits of such a system. If you increase that to 5 megawatts, you're giving a developer the opportunity to have a bigger large-scale client or multiple anchor clients there. So if a developer knows out of 5 megawatts, 3 megawatt goes into large-scale customers, less credit risk, your money is guaranteed, you then have more capacity to do more. So I think increasing the scale would also make it a bit more attractive as well.
Thank you. All right. Just trying to, keep to time. Mr. Damilare, this is your next question. You would actually answer in 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay. So how does your company strategize to expand access to natural gas across various states? Additionally, how do gas suppliers position themselves to serve areas where gas supply infrastructure is not readily available? This is purely a supply question.
All right. So I would say first is collaboration. So within the gas space, there's what we call open access as well. So there are a lot of infrastructure that you alone might probably not be able to do alone. I've gone to some collaboration with NGML with some locations, right? I would then also say, so the open access then makes sure that, okay, for places where there's existing pipeline, you can then hook up to those such pipelines to serve your own customer, while you then pay a primary or secondary tariff, as the case may be, to whoever built the infrastructure you are building on. I will also say that for states, we understand that as of today, there is no gas infrastructure up north to start with. Even the southern part, you understand that even in Lagos, there's gas, but there's no gas everywhere, right? So there's no gas in VI, for example, in some places in VI where I stay. So you then latch on to either you are developing infrastructure. So I have about 2 projects around the corridors of VI and Lekki. That is pipeline development. There's NGML, we are working together on that. Then for places where it is not economically to just develop pipeline, maybe they are just far away from the base pipeline, we're then looking at virtual pipelines like CNG. And when you then move to Northern Market, while we are all expecting the AKK pipeline, the panelists spoke about the other time, we then begin to look at an LNG solution. So in Tetracor, for example, we've commissioned our CNG facility. We've also launched our LNG project, a 10 million SCOF for first phase. And the idea is to have storage centers across the north, because we understand that a lot of power opportunity exists up north, but there's no gas to drive them. So the idea is we produce the gas in Ogun State, we move them to up north, and we can power businesses up north. And the idea is to ensure that energy access is equal in all the regions available. So
thank you very much. Okay, still on the gas conversations, it will be good to understand NMPC's strategic partnerships or initiatives that you would like to propose to enhance a better generation and franchising. You know, the goal is to ensure reliable and affordable supply of natural gas. So it will be good for you to take this opportunity to propose any initiatives or partnerships that NMPC would potentially be interested in. 2 minutes, please.
All right. Thank you, Osa. I like that word that you used, collaboration, because collaboration, I think, is the bedrock for success. It's very important that as an industry, and when I say industry, I'm talking about from the gas production all the way to the power uptake, that we come together to see how we can actually unlock this situation and make it very viable. In NMPC, I mentioned earlier, we play along the chain. So we wear the shoe and we know where it hurts. I think policy would be the first thing. We're advocates for the right policy, for the right regulation. We're also advocates for development of industrial hubs. And I can tell you, with the inroad of AKK right now, if you just try and go to Ajakuta today and just try to acquire a piece of land there, and you'll be shocked. Because people have already moved in and are grabbing. They know the gas is coming. Same thing in Kaduna and Kano. So we're really pushing towards encouraging people to develop industrial hubs. The right price is very important. You can take all the CNG from, you said from Oyo State, I think. You can take it all the way up north. But I can tell you, when the cost hits you and you're trying to send in that power, who can afford that power when you put in those prices? Because we operate on a net back basis. I'm sorry, I always end up with questions, but I like leaving the audience to ponder. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this question is for Ikeja Electric. So the disco is right there in the center of all of this, right? You have the embedded generation regulation, you have the franchising regulation. We haven't seen much traction on these two, right, in the industry. So it would be good to understand what additional regulatory support would you recommend to facilitate the smooth integration of embedded generation and franchising initiatives into your distribution network? 2.5 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. I think the Vice Chair of the Commission has already done justice to this question. We know that law and regulation can never be fully prescriptive of solutions because society keeps changing, and so regulations must catch up, and that's why the flexibility of the regulator in looking at these issues and ensuring that the interests of stakeholders are protected is very, very important. And I think that's the very important thing for all of us to do going forward. Like you said, we don't have all the answers, and open conversations, deliberation, and that sincerity to ensure that our projects succeed is very important as we go along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very impressed with your timing there. So we'll move on to Mr. Ayo. What strategic funding initiatives would you propose if you were given the opportunity to support Nigeria in reaching its power generation targets via embedded generation and franchising, considering both immediate and long-term perspectives?
Okay, so we need a combination of different sources. We need the federal government or the subnational with the enactment of this Electricity Act 2023 to be ready to do some investment into assets, infrastructure assets. We need the developmental institutions to provide support with development of concession fund that could come at lower rates and longer tenor to access. We need the commercial banks and other funders in Nigeria. Yes, I know that some of the infrastructure fund we have in Nigeria is already taking a look at doing things here. We know the Ripples is coming in, but we need to have more of such kind of concessionary funds looking at investment in the power sector of the country. We know that little by little we're beginning to get some of the commercial banks to start taking a look back at the power sector after the initial issues they've been having, most especially with the renewables and the green fund that they're trying to push. So we also need to have the commercial banks join. We can't do without having the foreign investment come in, because most of the infrastructure and the equipment that we use, about 60 to 70 to 80% of the equipment that we need for this embedded generation are imported, and which means that procurement is dollar denominated. So, and when you're having such a thing, you see that you can hardly do without having foreign investors coming in to invest. But I would just like to say lastly, so that we don't take more time, that we also need the Central Bank of Nigeria. We need support from the Central Bank and other regulators, and not really regulators now, but other enablers like the customs, and to provide more soft landing for initiatives. One of the problems we're still having with having the cost of power via renewables very high right now is due to the kind of custom duties that we pay on those equipment. Even though that we're trying to push that, Nigeria is trying to push to have it at zero for solar panels and some other stuff, but trust me, it is still a fight that we're trying to advocate for from the REA side, to have the implementation of those policies that have been embedded in what the country is trying to do. So if we're able to have those initiatives to support us in terms of having duties reduced, waivers, having tax holidays, that could help to bring in more investors, then we will witness more growth.
Okay, thank you. So this question now is towards the regulator. It's become clear that essentially we need some creativity, some innovativeness, some business models that can essentially work for the sector, right? So considering the dynamic nature of the power sector, what strategies would you say NERC employs to continually review and adapt regulatory frameworks to support the evolving needs, innovative approaches, and in turn attract domestic and international investment in embedded generation and franchising projects?
Okay, thank you. I think first and foremost, I think we valued our stakeholders, support and contribution. I'm very much sure that the outcome of this summit will also provide opportunity for us to review some existing regulations or orders or framework we have in place. And I think internally we are looking at the existing regulation, including the franchising guidelines, including the embedded regulation, and see which areas of which provisions in the regulations that require some amendment or complete elimination and addition of some other provisions that will serve as enabler to investment in the sector, including renewable energy space. And I said in the morning that we are also looking at the issue around feed-in tariff, all those things that speaks to renewable energy penetration. And I think last week I was talking to somebody and I started also after the conversation talking to myself that internally we now need to begin to put a framework for virtual PPA in place, because I realize that based on the transition to net zero carbon economy, many IOCs that currently have carbon-based power generation, the captive and the offshore, now need to procure some power from renewable energy sources, of which they don't intend to run wire across the shore and offshore, but to just sign a PPA with a call virtual PPA. And indeed, so it will require some regulatory framework, because you are signing a PPA, you are paying for the energy, but you are not signing the PPA with the intention of actually taking the energy. So it's different from the current reality we have in place. So all those things, the Commission will need to begin and look at it. What are the framework around virtual PPAs, reviewing processes and approval, so that at least we move creatively as the sector continues to evolve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would open up now to questions from the audience. Do we have questions from the audience? I'm sure we have a lot. Okay, we have one question. So 1, 2. Can we have some microphones probably moving around? Okay, yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suleiman Bawamanu from RMI. It's a very direct question to NNPC and just really trying to understand more on the AKK gas project. Can you shed some light on timelines that we're looking at for the completion of project like that? And I know sometimes within, financing has been quite difficult for gas projects in Africa. Also, if you can shed some more light on how NNPC is financing the project, if it's something you want to share. Thank you.
Okay.
Why did I feel as if I knew the first question would come to NNPC? Yeah, so thank you for your question. The AKK pipeline, as it is, the main line today, is about 76.42% complete. My GCO, I know, was on that site last month. It was a heavy delegation, and he expressed that this pipeline, the main line, will be completed by first quarter of 2025. So the project is progressing. NNPC is funding right now, as was mentioned. It's in the media. You can check that. And I think we've been doing a good job. And to the naysayers, that pipeline will come into fruition. It is happening. And I'll repeat again, 76.42%. So recent. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Tunde. I'm from NESCO. Sorry, still with NNPC. Yeah, you talk about mini LNG. And I'm looking at a situation where this pipeline, the AKK, is dropped at the region, rather than just maintaining this mini LNG that we're talking about. If you drop it at the region, different region in the country, definitely there will be embedded supply to all the regions based on where you have that area. So if you compare this with mini LNG, then I know that you take a better decision. That's one. And the mini LNG can now take over from that so that it can do regasification or whatever they want to do. So I think we should look at that area. I'm just suggesting that. Then the second one that I will also ask is to demand that talk about having different PPAs signed and lumping them together. The dynamics seems to be a little bit difficult for me to understand. We have several PPAs, several gas supply arrangements, and you are mixing them. I don't know whether you are using magic or whatever you are doing. So please, can you please elaborate more on that, please? Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I was actually trying to look for you in the crowd. I didn't know you were. If I got you right, you were mentioning that the mini LNG is a good backstop for the pipeline, or?
As to drop the pipe at the region, at the different regions of the country.
Of course.
So if the pipe is going, at least maybe we are looking at taking the pipe out of the country to Niger and to other areas from that side. Right? Instead of waiting till those projects, the war that is taking place is stopped or reduced, why not drop the AKK at the regions of the country? Northwest, southwest, southeast, south-south, different areas.
Okay.
Why don't you look at that area rather than creating a mini LNG that you talk about? Thank you.
Okay. You know, I'll just, so when in the 90s, when you had the Escravos Lagos pipeline, which was constructed to supply gas to Egbin, that was your first line, right? But today you have a lot. In fact, that line in itself, it was, you know, another line was constructed parallel to it because of the explosion. You know, the companies, the industries that were off-taking. Right now, that same pipeline is extended to Lekki. You know, and then when you're moving up to Oban, you have the OB3 that is connecting the east and the west. So there are pipeline networks. I'm just trying to, you know, I'm sure if you go online, you'll see it. There is a viral pipeline network. AKK is the first pipeline going to the north. And yes, you're right. The plan is to take it all the way to Europe. It is very expensive to fund. So you need a lot of resources to execute these lines. The only way you can complement it is by the virtuals. And that is the mini LNG we're talking about. I told you about CNG. I told you up to a certain radius, it will be very expensive. It won't be economical for you to use CNG. You need approximately about 46 or so cascades for a 2-day supply, right? For a 50 megawatt power plant versus 18 trucks for LNG. So you can clearly see that LNG has an upper hand here. So you cannot escape that completely. you would have to build those kind of initiatives, the CNGs, the mini LNGs, while you expand those pipelines. It will happen, but you need the funds and it will take time. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It does. Other hands? Any other hands up? We need some gender balance here, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to stand because my question is very dear to me. My name is Emeka Ebenebe, and I represent JOFAD. My question, my appeal is to the regulators. There are very low-hanging fruits that you could go for. Nigeria is a Naira economy. It will be challenged each time we go to make payments that we are forced to make it in dollars. In some circumstances, you need to go to the bank, you can't get a dollar. You get to the streets to buy a dollar, and then go back to the bank to pay it to the government. It doesn't make sense. They are very low-hanging fruits. And the fees are paid in dollars. The pipeline transport code is paid in dollar. I agree, the gas also is paid in dollars. But at the same time, you want developers to develop the gas, generate power, and collect money in Naira. And then when these things put pressure on the Naira keeps going down, but you fix your dollar in such a way that no matter what happens, we still have to make payments to government in dollars. So my appeal is for you to break it down, come down to our level, the level of the masses, and get your own payments in dollars so that we can afford to meet the needs of the common people in the streets.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think I would like to provide a clarification. Gas is not paid for in dollar, but is indexed to dollars. There is a difference between the two. Paid for in dollars means that you can only maybe transfer through your domiciliary account to the account of gas supplier, or you get cash, which is dollar, and pay for that gas. But what is done is because of the large volume of foreign investments, because require inputting gas facilities in place, the Naira equivalent is indexed to dollar, which means that if you are signing a gas supply agreement today, they will tell you that, oh, it's $2.42 per MBTU. That is that. But you can pay Naira equivalent. So what now happens is, if today the dollar, Naira to dollar is 1,000 Naira to a dollar. So if by tomorrow, Naira to dollar is 1,500, you are still going to pay 1,500 multiplied by $2, 2.42, right? So it's the Naira equivalent that you are paying, but because it's indexed to dollar, that is where the challenge is. And it's a conversion that has happened, both at the policy level, but there are also a challenge. I think the reason we tend to know much about this issue of, oh, gas is paid in dollars or is indexed to dollar is because of the instability of our macroeconomics, especially FX. If FX 2 years ago, 3 years ago, has remained the same thing, the foreign exchange rate, nobody will be talking about, oh, tariff is going up because gas is paid for in dollars. So, but because there is that instability in FX rate, that's been the challenge. So it's not like, oh, they need to go and source for dollar and pay for it in dollar. They pay Naira equivalent, but indexed to dollar. So having said that, I think it's not the regulatory thing, especially the power sector regulation. Because when you look at gas resides with another regulator. You talk of MDPRA, then at the upstream, you talk of NUPRC. So it's about policy. If tomorrow the government says, oh, we are no longer indexing gas to dollar. The price of gas is no longer being indexed to dollar. So be it. But the challenge will be that in a few years to come, unless our economy remains stable, the gas suppliers will continue to cry and most likely will not invest. Currently, if you go to them and discuss, they will tell you their challenges. And I don't say that NNPC, if they want to talk now, they will say Nigeria is a gas nation because we have gas reserve, but the gas under the ground is as useless as nothing, as anything. Because until somebody invests in processing the gas and bring it up for usage in the power sector, gas-based industry, that's when it becomes value. Under the ground is nothing. So if you speak to gas suppliers today, they will tell you that, yes, local demand for gas largely comes from power sector, but because of non-payment, I'm not incentivized to invest more. So that's been the problem. If the government decides to say tomorrow, no longer indexation to dollar, and the naira is not stable, it will be a big challenge. The investment we want to come into the gas production will definitely not come. You may have heard about associated gas, which is what we depend on largely in Nigeria for powering our economy, especially electricity, which is the reason whenever there is a problem in the Niger Delta with respect to oil, theft and so on, or shutting down of TMP, we begin to have problem with the quality of supply because associated gas will not flow when the oil production stops. So there is a need for massive investment in non-associated gas. But for that to happen, it has to be incentivized. And I think it was the reason the government allowed NDPRA to raise the tariff from $2.18 to $2.42 recently, early this year, just to incentivize investment into the sector. So the problem we have largely is not because of paying in dollars, it's indexation in dollar, but largely driven because of non-stability of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. More questions? I'm really surprised no women want to put up their hands.
Maybe because there is no woman in the panel. The panel is not gender.
That's where the problem started. Okay, please go ahead. Keep your question brief, please.
All right. I'm Theophilus Enemali from GRB Solar Investment Limited. In 2020, the federal government signed an order to ensure that value-added tax exemption and import duty exemption is given to renewable energy products. What is the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is doing to ensure the full implementation of those orders signed in 2020? Because it appears like it hasn't seen the full light of day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that policy resides with the Ministry of Finance because any order of such nature signed by the government, either through the Minister of Finance, the implementation will be at the ports, so on, by customs and so on. And NERC doesn't have oversight the activities of custom or some other agencies that may be responsible for the implementation of such an order. I think what can happen is if we have the details at the commission, we can actually take it up with the Minister of Power, also the Minister of, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, to see, but who will rely on you? Anybody that have the details of what was signed then, maybe a copy of the order and so on. We are also with maybe some level of justification on how we think it will help, which we actually, because we talked about reduction in duties and so on, definitely we have effect in crashing down the price of renewable energy source electricity. So if you can, I don't know if your company has a copy or you know how we can get a copy of all those frameworks put in place, then we can actually take it up, discuss with the Honorable Minister of Power, then engage with the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and whoever is necessary to be engaged with, so that we can, at the end of the day, make a progress. We are all working for the progress of this country.
Thank you. Okay. Where?
Good afternoon. I have two questions. One related to gas.
Sorry, please, just one question, please.
My name is Praveen, EDC. On the area of gas, I think there is a need to also look at the flare gas, because gas from the ground is costlier than the flare gas. So if there are opportunities for flare gas, that could be the one which could be targeted to augment the electricity generation. The second area is related to solar PV, and how much of the solar PV currently is produced out of Nigeria in terms of components and panels.
Okay.
The reason is that the more the volume increases, the solar tariff, at least I can say for sure for India, that the solar tariff today is commensurate and has a grid parity with the generation tariff for generation out of gas and coal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Damlari, would you help us out? Yeah.
All right, I will just answer the flare gas part.
The gas, yes.
Right. So there is a flare gas commercialization program, right, which was rolled out by the federal government, and the idea is to say for people that have assets that they flare gas currently, gas players could come in and commercialize those gas and push into the pipeline. So there are a couple of projects ongoing regarding that, but of course it also comes with its own challenges. It says that what will the pricing mechanism be like, and the fact that you need to do a lot more processing to then make the gas a lean gas. And also the fact that some of these assets are in stranded locations where you can't even push to the pipeline. And that's where some of us are considering is either you situate a power plant right there and then transfer the energy via power, or you situate something like an LNG and a CNG such that that gas can then, once converted to usable form, can then be transported for use. But trust me, government already has a program on that, and some gas players are already working on that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So we've actually run out of time, and we've come to the end of this panel session. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. They've done well. Thank you. We can leave.
Thank you. We'll just allow the panelists and got to join them for a group photograph. Thank you very much. We'll take a panel photo to just document this. So please join us here in front. It's good to smile. It means what we're doing is good. Please clap for them. Clap for them. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll quickly move to the next. Of course, we're talking about pitching. And it will be about investment opportunities and opportunities to harness. I'll invite the moderator, who in turn will invite his members. Our moderator is a PhD in energy studies, specializing in renewable energy, finance, and his research dwelt on the economic viability of interconnected solar mini-grids in selected underserved rural communities in southwestern Nigeria. He is a technical advisor in the Nigerian Energy Support Program, which is co-funded by the European Union and German Federal Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation, BMZ, and is implemented by the German Agency for the International Cooperation, GIZ. He is actively involved in government relations, is a stakeholder in management, and provides high-level technical advisory to partners to promote renewable energy investment. He's also involved in monitoring and evaluating GIZ's renewable energy projects in the country. And he was a regulatory affairs and government relations manager at the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, PLC, and a contract management analyst at the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading, PLC. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for this session, who will be dealing with issues of pitching, opportunities for investment as well as time, because his time has just been reduced from 1 hour to 45 minutes. Distinguished guests, put your hands together for him. Alexander Olatunde Akolo, PhD, is our moderator for this session. Please clap for him, clap for him.
Good afternoon, everyone. Standing on the already established protocols, let's just jump right into it. As we know, as we've heard, my time has been reduced, so I'll just call the panelists. And please, when you hear your name, please just come out as soon as possible. Engineer Oppo Onyekere, GM Technical Operations Ecodisco. Please make your way to the front. Mrs. Ochuko Oma, MDCO Port Harcourt Disco. Please come to the front. Engineer Ismail Usman, TA to the MD Just Disco. Masood Salisu, Head Regulatory Officer Yola Disco. Please make your way to the front. Mustafa Ismail, Kazuna Disco. Engineer Fola Shade Sanya, Ibadan Disco. Mr. Modestus Onwa, Enugu Disco. And finally, Mr. Modestus Onwa, Enugu Disco. Please, you have 5 minutes to make your presentations. And after the presentations by the discos, the floor will be open to the audience for questions. Thank you very much. We'll be starting with Ecodisco. Engineer Oppo. Engineer Oppo. It's working.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are speaking on the investment opportunities available at Ecodisco. I'm going to speak specifically. Ecodisco, as we all know, is the #1 disco in the country. And as we all know, Ecodisco is also the disco that have the who is who in the country. Yes, as a result of the challenges with the grid, Ecodisco welcomes this process of renewable energy. Now, what are the opportunities in Ecodisco? Ecodisco is majorly divided into 3 circles: the East, Central, and the West circles, comprising of 12 districts. In our Eastern and Western circles, we have underserved customers, especially at the tail end of the disco. Speaking of East circle, from Ajah down to Ekpe, we have customers that are underserved. We have customers that presently get average of 8 to 10 hours. So renewable energy will be, will be important for them to make up for this, the remaining hours of availability. Also, in the East Circle, that is towards from Ajadan to Ekpe, you have numerous estates who are craving for more supply and availability on that axis. But due to grid constraints, we are not able to serve them as we speak. So renewable energy, it would be a welcome idea. Yes, we're already discussing with some of, investors in that area. We also pioneering franchising arrangement. There is an ongoing project with VI Power of 30 megawatts, which is currently ongoing. Then also in the West Circle, speaking from Agbara up to Semeboda, we also have underserved customers. We are expecting, massive investment in that area. And with renewable energy, the customers' availability can be improved upon. Then we also have customers that are yet to be served, that are unserved customers, like I mentioned earlier. Between Badagry and Semeboda, yes, the network is up to that point, but you discover that as a result of limitations and constraints, the energy at that, availability at those areas is almost nothing. So we are keying into the renewable energy platform to improve availability in these areas. So in a code disco, we are open to discussion, we are open to investment, we are open to discussion to ensure that the underserved customers, because transmission projects takes a long time, to be completed. So I think the renewable energy will be the easier way out, and it is our belief that with proper investment in this area, availability and electricity will get to customers at these areas.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Oppo. Please a round of applause for him. I call on the MDCO Port Harcourt Disco, Chukwuma. Please, you can make your presentations from. Good afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ochuko Ama, acting MD Port Harcourt Disco. Yeah, for Port Harcourt Disco, I'll just go straight to the point on the investment opportunities we have in Port Harcourt Disco. For Port Harcourt Disco, our franchise area is actually River State, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and Bayelsa. Most of our opportunities are in the underserved. Selected areas are in rivers, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom. We have 9 areas in Cross River. We have 2 in rivers, and then we have 1 in Akwa Ibom. We'll just go through our voice playover for us to see exactly the sites and the opportunities that we have. Mind you, for Port Harcourt Disco, our target is a 28 megawatts energy allocation. And for now, we have already started with the mini grids. We already have 5 sites of mini grids. But we'll just play exactly the underserved and the unserved areas that we have as you watch. Thank you.
Okay. A round of applause for Port Harcourt Disco. Okay.
is a bustling hub of economic activities with seaports, banks, and eateries driving its growth. This cluster has an estimated population of 14,500 and a total connection of 5,811, all of whom are potential beneficiaries of enhanced power supply. The customer mix includes 5,184 residential, 601 commercial, and 26 industrial users, despite a healthy network infrastructure with 30 distribution transformers and a feeder voltage of 33 kV. On-air is currently underserved of only 5 hours of supply daily due to technical challenges. With an estimated load demand of 7.2 megawatt and 75% metering rate, On-air presents a lucrative opportunity for investment in mini-grids and embedded generations. The area is secured, accessible, and ready for development with significant potential to boost local businesses and improve the quality of life for residents. Next, we turn to Eleme, also in River State, known for its petrochemical companies, shopping malls, and office complexes. Eleme has an estimated population of 5,500 and a total number of 1,133 connected customers. This cluster features 1,022 residential customers, 111 commercial, and industrial customers. The network here is healthy with 21 distribution transformers and a 33 kV feeder voltage level. Eleme faces similar challenges with an average supply of 5 hours daily due to technical issues. However, with an estimated load demand of 5 megawatts and 80% metering rate, this cluster is poised for transformation. Enhanced power supply will invigorate the local economy, benefiting businesses and residents alike. We now present Bakassi in Cross River State. This area, with a customer base of 1,200, is primarily engaged in fish farming and processing. The cluster includes 1,000 residential customers and 200 commercial customers. However, Bakassi faces unique challenges with a network that needs rehabilitation. Despite a 4-hour average daily supply, the area's potential is immense, with a 2 megawatts load demand and secure, accessible roads. Investment in Bakassi can revitalize the local economy and support sustainable development. Moving to urban Cross River State, with a customer cluster of 1,400 residential customers and 350 commercial customers. The network here is in a collapsed state, leaving the area underserved with an average supply of less than 4 hours daily. Enhanced power supply will invigorate the local economy, benefiting businesses and residents alike. Enyong, also in Cross River State, is another area primarily focused on fish farming and processing. This cluster includes 1,500 customers. Enyong features 1,200 residential customers and 300 commercial customers. The network has some technical challenges with barely an average daily supply of 4 hours. With a 1.8 megawatts load demand and secure surroundings, investment here will enhance the power supply and support local economic growth. Old Netim, known for its stone mining and farming activities, has a customer population of 1,300. This cluster includes 1,000 residential customers, 292 commercial customers, and 8 industrial customers. The network has its peculiar challenges, resulting in an unserved status for the community, with supply daily. With a 4.5 megawatts load demand and secured surroundings, investing in Ugep town will enhance the local power supply and support economic activities. Finally, we present Ibaka in Akwa Ibom State. This area, with a customer population of 800, is home to a mini seaport and a naval base. Ibaka includes 750 residential customers and 50 commercial customers. The network has been vandalized, leaving the area unserved with no supply currently. With a 0.672 megawatts load demand and secure surroundings, investing in Ibaka will restore the local power infrastructure and unlock its commercial potential. Investing in these clusters will not only drive economic growth and create jobs, but also promote environmental sustainability by supporting renewable energy initiatives. Supported by favorable government policies and incentives, these projects offer significant return on investment and opportunities for impactful partnerships. We invite you to take virtual tours of these sites and join our interactive Q&A sessions to explore opportunities further. Join us in powering the future of One, Eleme, Bakassi, Oban, Enyong, Old Netim, Okoyong Usang, Abasi, Ikom Town, Ogoja Town, Obudu Town, Ugeb Town, and Ibaka. For more information, contact us through our contact channels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Port Harcourt. Thank you very much, Port Harcourt. So, we're moving on to Just Disco. Engineer Ismail, please come here and make your presentation. Use your slides. Engineer Ismail, Just Disco.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by saying thank you and commending the regulators for organizing this summit at this material time. For us in Just Electricity Disco, there's no better, there couldn't have been any better time than this to organize this summit. This is because it's actually aligning with an already in-house strategy and direct roadmap that we have towards upscaling the renewable energy in our selected areas. For Just Electricity Distribution Company, we are currently operating in 4 states of Benue, Bauchi, Plateau, and Gombe. And at the moment, the company is actually allocated 6% of the allocation from the national grid, from the daily generation from the national grid, which translates into 225 megawatt. But currently, our expected load demand from our 4 franchise states is about 361. When you take off 225 that we are currently off-taking, you would realize that we have a shortfall of about 136, and it is in this key area that we are requiring to have partners who would actually engage us in making sure that we bridge this gap in taking this energy through upscaling of renewable energy for distribution to underserved and unserved communities with specific focus on micro, small, and medium enterprises to meet and bridge their energy gaps. Currently, as I said, we have some options that are open for consideration, or 2 models. It could either be embedded generation or interconnected mini-grids, depending on the load expectation of the identified and selected communities that are going to be the key beneficiaries of this particular project. This is actually the key commercial data for Just Electricity Distribution PLC. You can see 12 months energy delivered as at last month for Just Electricity Distribution PLC in the 4 franchise states. And these are the 2 key models that we are actually considering. Embedded generation with franchising arrangement, where a developer or investor would decide on a particular location, depending on his capacity, whether he's going to take over 33 kV or 11 kV feeders, or to take over some distribution transformers to be able to scale up a generation of energy for distribution in the network. This is actually for interconnected mini-grids, where the energy demand for the selected communities is not too much, below 1 megawatt. We have the option where an investor can key into this to generate a minimum of 1 megawatt to the selected communities. At the moment, as I said earlier, Jet Electricity has already gone a little bit ahead in terms of renewable energy, because it has already signed a number of tripartite agreements with some developers in some selected communities. At the moment, we have ACOP, we have signed already a tripartite agreement between JED, the developer, and the benefiting community for 0.495 megawatt in Jingir community. For those who are familiar with Jos, Jingir is along Jos Kaduna Road. And we are also in the process of signing another agreement with Mask Nigeria Limited for 1.5 megawatt for communities in under 11 kV GRA. GRA Azere is in Bauchi State. And we have a target deadline for signing this tripartite agreement set for 31st of this month. We have also gone ahead to have a very good and robust engagement with Total ICEL. This is for a PPA, Power Purchase Agreement. We expect them to generate about 50 megawatts for distribution to some selected communities across the franchise. We are also looking at March 2025 as the date for commencement of this particular business relationship. We have MITS Dynamics. We have already entered into a tripartite agreement with them. It's about being signed. By 30th of August, we are expected to sign off this particular tripartite agreement between JED, the developer, and the benefiting community. Bajoga is a community in Gombe with a lot of potentials for investors to key into. It is for 0.8 megawatts. And this is so far we have gone in terms of our in-house roadmap for upscaling of renewable energy. These are images of some selected communities. For want of time, we have just selected few for projection here so that we have the total number of customers in the community, their current energy demand, and the financials, what we are actually doing in those locations in terms of billing and collection, and the enormous potential that are still there inherent in those communities where we expect to partner with developers that have keen interest to actually take up the business relationship in these particular locations. This is another community. Dambam community is a good business community in Bauchi. This is a satellite image of the community. It's just a small community, but it has a very good potential for interconnected mini grids. This is 11 kV feeder total in Shandam. Shandam is in Plateau State. Our focus for now is basically in southern Plateau State and some parts of Benue communities and some communities in Bauchi where we are not actually meeting their current energy demands. This is Barikilaji. Barikilaji is also in Plateau State, a very good business location. These are the selected sites we have for interconnected mini grids. We have Dengi Town, Gindri, Kufen, and Shandam. All of them are in Plateau State. And we have other locations, Benpoli, Ubokolo, all of them are in Benue States. These are the potentials from franchising with embedded generation, where we expect the developer to come in, take over the location, and generate electricity in addition to what we are actually getting from the grid to augment the allocation from the grid to meet the energy demands of those particular communities. This is actually network investment requirement that we carried out in the last few days regarding the selected locations. So investors can take a keen look on these particular figures with a view to making up their minds in where and where to go. As we are very optimistic that the regulators are actually doing their own part in creating the enabling environment, making the policies and guidelines to protect the investment of would-be investors at just Electricity Distribution PLC, where our hands are wide open. We also welcome investors with the assurance that Jos Disco is a very viable environment for investors to key in. Thank you very much.
Jos Disco. Thank you, Jos Disco. Please, moving on, I'm calling Masood Salisu, Head Regulator of Sayola Disco, for his presentation. 5 minutes, please.
Please. Yola. Is it Yola? Yes. Yola.
Thank you very much. My name is Masood Salisu Abdelkader. I'm the head of regulatory compliance. So I'm going through the presentation for Yola Electricity Distribution Company. As you can see, this is our vision, our mission, and our core values, which has been there for the new YEDC. you can recall that YEDC was incorporated in the year 2005, and unfortunately there was issue of forced merger whereby the previous investors have to go off. Quest Energy took over 60% of YEDC year 2022, that is January, whereby their sole responsibility is to operate within the area of Yola Distribution Company. And from the map, you can see that Yola covers Yobe, Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba. These are the franchise states whereby we operate. You know that YEDC is the baby disco right now, just taking 2.8% of the total energy from the grid. And if you look at this map, for now, as at now, if you look at Borno right now is totally off grid. We are getting our supply through the Maiduguri Emergency Power Project. That is, we are taking an average of just 20 megawatt from the power plant, which is feeding the Maiduguri Metropolitan. And if you look at Maiduguri, it's an area whereby there is need of such investment. Historically, Maiduguri can take at least 60 to 70 megawatt, but unfortunately right now we are just managing the 20 megawatt from the Maiduguri Emergency Power Project. And if you look at Adamawa, on my slides later, you see what I mean. Adamawa right now, we have some viable and commercial areas. For example, Mubi area, whereby we are getting our supply through the 3 kV Garkeda, and the voltage level at Mubi is like at just 8 kVA. So kV, sorry. So this is a commercial area that is just bordering Nigeria and Cameroon. So we have other underserved and areas in Adamawa also. Likewise in Taraba. If you look at Taraba, out of I think 16 local governments, I think only 9 local governments have supply to the grid. Unfortunately, about 6 local governments are totally off grid, which I think there is need for investors to come in and then see how we can be able to invest within Yola Disco. Likewise, Yobe. In Yobe, we have the major town of only Damatru and Potaskum, and Guru and Gashwa that we are having this supply. So I think, let me just go, the regional opportunities, a lot of opportunities are there within Adamawa, Taraba, Borno, and etc. And if you look at what we have rice mills and etc. Because of time, this is just a geographical location of Taraba, whereby in Taraba, around Mambilan, etc., there is opportunity for investors to come and invest, whereby if you look at these local governments, Arokola, Bali, and etc., about 6 in number, they are totally off-grid from the grid. So I think these are some of the projects right now in the, under YEDC jurisdiction. If you look at different projects, ongoing projects, in the franchise state of the Yola electricity distribution. So also likewise, this is just slides also showing different location of REA projects ongoing on. So I think these are different feeder clusters whereby with the performance and description of these feeders, and there is need for our investors to, for us to sit down and then look at all these clusters so that we can be able to develop these areas. So I think because of time. So these are different sites that we've identified within our franchise area. These are things that I need the investors to quickly know about it. There is a quick return of investment if we have such developers that invest in the Yola. Number one. Number two is YEDC is bordering about 3 countries. Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. And there is opportunity of energy export across the countries, and also there is energy poverty. That is, the reason I say energy poverty is we need this energy. A lot of areas are underserved and unserved. So there is need for investors and developers to come in to invest within the franchise state of Yola Distribution Company. And currently, there are projects of about 25 megawatt that is ongoing right now, and more are coming within the franchise. And one very good thing about YDC is just this issue of 330 kV line. You have a single 330 kV line feeding the entire franchise state of Yola, of Adamawa, Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba. Yeah. So I think because of time.
Thank you, Yola Disco.
But I have a lot to present.
Even though you did not stick to the time, just like Jos Disco. The next, Mustafa Ismail, please. Are you ready? Kaduna Disco. Okay, Engineer Folashade, please come and make your presentation.
No slide. Yeah, I don't know whether they've given them. It's not here?
That's good.
Okay, let me get it for you.
No. If there's no, just talk. Just talk. There's no plan.
Okay, no, it's not this one. Good afternoon, all. My name is Mustafa Ismail from Kaduna Electric. Our feeders from our side, we cover 4 states, which is Kaduna, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi. But all our the feeder we showcase here today is they are 8, and those 8 feeders are boundary feeders. There's a reason why we pick boundary feeders. Most of these boundary feeders get low, they are on the sub area. Because anytime, whenever there's a drop in generation, most of these discos, neighboring discos, drop the load of these feeders. They leave these customers without supplies for weeks. That's why we decide to showcase most of these feeders here. Then, apart from these feeders, if you are interested in other areas, we are ready to give you any location, any feeders in our franchise area. So if you are serious with your investment, then on these feeders we have Saminaka, we have Jere. In Jere feeders, Jere is covering is from Suleja, starting from Suleja down to close to Gwagwede Lake, which is around 300 kilometers. It covers almost 300 kilometers and is a viable area. On this same Jere line, we have a steel company and some other commercial customers on the line. Then we have Saminaka. Saminaka is a very big town with huge commercial customers, and we have some factories there too. We have Makarifi feeder. Makarifi feeder is purely residential customers and like 60% commercial customers. Then we have Karai. Karai is feeding from Kano, and is on the south customer is on the south feeders too. This Karai, you can get at least 80%. You can recover at least 80% of your collection in Karai if you invest in that area, because they are viable customers in that location. But the only issue they have is limited supply due to network constraint in that area. All you need to do is just small investment on the network, and you start making your money. Then we have another feeder called Paki. Paki is also feeding from Kano. So apart from these 8 feeders, we have some feeders within profile on this for this show. After this program, if you are interested in any of our feeders, like I said again, feel free to contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you for keeping to time. Engineer Folashade. Remember, it's 5 minutes, please. Remember, it's 5 minutes. Is your slide here?
Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I want to say good afternoon to everyone. I'm Folashade Soya from Ibadan Disco. I'm here to showcase and tell you about our readiness for investors to partner with us. Ibadan Disco happens to be one of the largest distribution company, and that has a wide coverage area. We cover 7 states, 4 fully, and that is Ogun, Oyo, Ibadan, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and Kwara. Then partly Niger, Kogi, and Ekiti states. Our franchise areas is characterized with a lot of opportunities. Though the infrastructures are limited, in a way it can be a problem because of liquidity. But with all these summits and enlightenment, you will see that it's a good problem that has become an opportunity for our investors, developers to leverage on. And we have already identified some clusters for our developers, anybody that is interested in the franchise area to partner on. We have more than the current one we made submission on here, about 8 of them. We have 2 in Kwara, and the remaining 6 in Oyo State. This is not to say that these are the only areas where these opportunities are opened. We have in Afon, in Egbe, and Awe Town, Shaki, Idigba, Iwo, and New Ashejire and Omiadio area. All these assets are mixed, so there is none that is not profitable. If you invest in all of this area, you would definitely smile home as an investor. So we are waiting for you. We want you to come. 4 of these clusters are majorly industrial. These are Awe, Idigba, Iwo, and New Ashejire that are already, we have done studies and we are very sure that if you come and partner with us, you'll be good for it. We also have a very good environment, very safe, and the communities are friendly. So if you invest, you can be at rest. So we welcome you all to partner with us. And after now, you can visit our booth. All these are detailed. We have a brochure that we explain and tell you about. Downloading every information you need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Folashade. And lastly, Mr. Modestus, please.
Yeah, this one, corporate. No, this one.
Enugu.
Yeah. Yes, this is it. So how do I scroll it?
Okay. Please, 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Modestus Onoha from Renewable, a station discovery company. We are glad to be here this afternoon as part of this event to showcase the investment opportunities in renewable and embedded generation in Enugu Disco. I wouldn't want to bother with background history because all that are detailed in our brochure, and I would like you to pick a copy before you leave. I will look at some of the silent points that will be of interest to developers and financiers in these thematic areas. So all we are trying to present today is fully integrated in our business model because we're trying to deepen our energy mix and improve our operational efficiency. And we are focused on 3 areas: interconnected mini-grid. And in that space, we have 594 megawatts portfolio. Also in the better generation, we have about 210 megawatts. For the franchise area, we have about 158 billion investment in these areas, and we have the investment case for them. But be that as it may, we also be of interest to show that we have done social analysis for the investors that if they're looking at issues around any of the thematic areas, they will not bother themselves is to pick a copy and look at some of the issues, social challenges we raise in these areas. Like the interconnected grid, we know is already underserved areas. So for our interconnected mini-grid, if you look at our page 11 of our investment case, we will see that we already looked at the clusters that were aggregated in different areas that have need for interconnected mini-grid. And we did it in such a way that every investor that wants to look at it as a portfolio, instead of doing a dispersed one mini-grid or one, we aggregated it in a particular area, and you will see it on our brochure. Also, same thing for our franchise area, which is focused on feeder-wise. We have selected some feeders that, feel that with franchise we can improve the hours of availability and reliability, and also strengthen our network. Same also for embedded generation. Our embedded generation is focused on industrial clusters. So we'll try to make sure that they have more availability and reliability, because most of the times why they are not fully connected to the national grid because of the network is not reliable. So also we have tried to make sure that we help our financiers and developers that will come around because we have already carried out our profiling with a normal project screening life cycle. We are looking at funding guarantee, whether that area is commercially viable, and also looking at risk mitigations around those thematic areas. Okay, for the interested investors and financiers, we are also looking at making some of the projects, show you how feasible they are, and also looking at bankability of some projects. And so I will appreciate you go through our brochure, looking at our investment direction strategies we have also put out, like the embedded interconnected mini-grid, where we're looking at pay and use model, to make sure that we have high collection efficiency, and also reinforce some of the franchise areas in terms of reinforcing the project cash flows.
Thank you.
I think if you go through our project, we'll go. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Enigudisco. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Now, the floor is open for questions and answers from the audience. We'll just take maximum of 3 questions because of time, and subsequently you can reach out to the panelists. And they all have their material, that is the portfolio, at their booth, so you can reach out to them. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Solotokwe Dada, Avon Hill. I'm a developer. I hope I'm allowed to ask.
Direct your question to wherever you want to.
Okay, thank you. For Port Harcourt, very lovely presentation. Thank you very much, Ma. Could you help us with the mindset, because we've carried out some assessments in that sector of the country, and that mindset of government must pay for my electricity, that may also be affecting investors' appetite. So if you could help us with that. And for Kaduna talked about boundary feeders And I was wondering, why will another disco feed your customers? And then when we are coming, we'll have to deal with you, not the guy that has been feeding your customers, collecting the tariff. So if you could also help us, because when we get there now, we're speaking with you, and then the other disco comes and say, we've been the ones feeding this customer. Who do we sign a tripartite agreement with? Ibadan, we've been with you. I mean, I just hope we can close the conversations we've been having with you. We are really ready for this, and I'm glad you mentioned quite a number of other very juicy and interesting places. But we've been talking with you for almost 8 months now. Please, if we can close that deal, I will really, really be grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think just respond quickly, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, the developer that spoke now. I didn't get your name. However, I'll just go straight to the answer. Yes, for Port Harcourt, you are very correct when it comes to the entitlement mentality. But if you had checked our video very well, we are looking at areas in Calabar, and we have done a lot of customer engagement and sensitization. As a matter of fact, the Honorable Minister asked the same question when we were at the pitch there, and then he asked that same question, and I said, no, we have done our customer sensitization, and they are already waiting for the investors. They'll be happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. Ibadan Disco.
Okay, thank you for your question. And what happened with that kind of a bit of delay? It's when when there's a change in management, in government, things and stuff like that can happen. But we have more of stability now in IBDC, and we are open for this discussion. So we'll be expecting you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibadan Disco. More questions, please? That gentleman over there. Kaduna is not. Okay. Yeah, you heard this question, right? This question, okay, please can you ask the question again? Please just keep it short and simple.
You spoke about boundary feeders.
Yes.
Another disco is serving your customer.
Yes.
Now you want me to talk to you about those customers. So when I sign an agreement with you, who is losing revenue? Is the disco that has been serving you. So help us to iron that out. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. Now, these are Karai and Paki. They are part of our coverage area. We collect we do all the collection there, but we pay Kano Disco. If you sign an agreement with us, all you need to do is if you sign an agreement with us, whatever it is you are getting from those disco, we'll pay them normal transactions, just normal the way we are doing it before. You understand? We just pay them.
Thank you, Mustafa. Please, there's a gentleman that has a question over there.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Engineer Bennett Oyina from NESCO in Jos. So my question goes to my colleague in Jos Disco. I'm glad that you've mentioned some opportunities for renewable energy injection into the Jos Disco network. My question is, we have some very good cordial relationship with NESCO. Of course, we exist together in Jos.
Please keep your question short and simple.
How open are you to collaborating with NESCO on some of these underserved areas to ensure that we, of course, extend our relationship to the mini-grid sector of the Jos Disco? How open is JED to collaborating with NESCO in those areas?
Thank you. Please.
Thank you very much, my colleague from NESCO. It is true that we've been working together with NESCO in serving communities. And this relationship has gone down many years before now. This relationship still exists up to now. As I mentioned, there are communities that are currently, it's NESCO that are actually serving now under that tripartite arrangement that we have between JED, NESCO, and the benefiting communities. I think in the course of the last 1 year, we have had a lot of engagements. We have reasons to have a number of engagements between JOS, Electricity, NESCO, and some communities. In some communities, there are actually challenges that we've not been able to iron out modalities for smooth operations in those communities. But I want to believe that in the course of time, as we engage more, we should be able to make a headway, not only in those communities that we are currently relating, but also to foster a new relationship in other locations. I think our doors are wide open. We engage officially and unofficially with NESCO regarding service delivery to our customers. And I think I want to believe that that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose Disco. Any other questions? The last question for the day. Okay, if there are no doubt questions, I think we've officially come to the end of the pitch. Okay, please give Engineer Ibi Mohammed to the microphone.
Mine is not a question, but just to assure and reassure vendors and investors that as far as JOS Distribution Company is concerned.
Please introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Engineer Ibi Mohammed, MD CEO of JOS Disco. As far as JOS Electricity Distribution Company is concerned, we are at the forefront and we're open for business relationships. Let me say the fact that I was in the commission for 15 years before I moved to JOS, and I was the team lead for both franchising and embedded generation. So I know the importance of this, and at the same time, JOS Distribution Company will set the pace for franchising. We have actually engaged consultants to work for us and clusterize our franchise areas in such a way that we have bankable studies so that it will be easier for investors to come in, look at the franchise clusters, and then evaluate and be able to key in as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MD. As there are no other questions, we've come to the end of the disco speech session. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Please a round of applause for the panelists and the presenters. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So we should have a photograph.
So we'll take a group photograph. I will invite our vice chair. Please join us in front here. Our panelists will to take this group picture. Please clap for the panel. Clap for the panel. I was thinking in the future we may look for some other kind of acronym for distribution companies. The idea of disco is something. If you call it in the afternoon, it's okay. But at night, you just want to wonder. If it's in Lagos, we'll have just called Lagos Disco, Owambe Disco. Please put your hands together for our panelists. Thank you very much. And a special one for our moderator for doing well with time. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm sure you are happy. This is to also inform you that they all have booths at our exhibition stand in the hall behind. So please, during lunch or later on, you can join them, and they'll be also here tomorrow throughout. At any time, you can go to the next hall and just get more information. Ask all those questions you didn't want other people to know you were asking, and tell them how much also you want to invest. They are open to you. They have professionals waiting to receive you at the next hall. Please, that's the exhibition hall. During lunch, probably throughout of tomorrow, we'll be able to meet them, to ask questions, and to get information from them. All right. We will take another one quickly so that as soon as we are done, we'll just go and eat lunch. And from lunch, we can go to exhibition and go home. But I know that they said the World Health Organization said you shouldn't sit down for too long. So I just want to ask you, just honorably, to just ask you to stand up, not with any stress, just get up honorably. Just stand, just so you can ease your waist, just stand. I'm not saying go anywhere, just stand where you are. You can stretch, yes. You can stretch. If you were in the office, this is where you call for tea, but there's nothing like that here now. Can't do anything for you here. But yes, I think it's okay. We can now sit down. We can sit down. Let's sit. Yes, you can sit down. I'll do it one more time, so you better. The earlier you sit down, the better for us. Okay. Just because of your health, I will ask you to do it a little faster. So I may be giving a prize to the first person to stand up. The first person to stand up. Okay, I mean everyone. Okay, we'll give to the last person too. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. When they were doing the tea break, I went to the wrong hall. And a lady just walked up to me and said, "Young man, what do you want? Would you have tea?" I didn't know it was a VVIP lounge. She said, "Would you like to have tea, fruit juice, yogurt, cappuccino, chocolate drinks, or coffee?" And I looked at her and said, "Please, can you just give me tea?" She said, "What kind of tea do you want? Do you want Ceylon tea, Indian tea, herbal tea, Karicho tea, golden tea, bush tea, or green tea?" I said, "Okay, give me Ceylon tea." She said, "How do you want it, white or black?" I said, "White." She said, "With milk or fresh cream?" I said, "Milk." She said, "Goat milk or cow milk?" I said, "Cow milk." She said, "Friesland cow or Afrikaner cow?" I said, "Friesland cow." So would you like it with sweetener, sugar, or honey? I said, "Sugar." She said, "Bee sugar or cane sugar?" I said, "Cane sugar." She said, "White, brown, or yellow?" I said, "Please forget about the tea. Just give me a glass of water." She said, "You want a glass of water?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Mineral water, tap water, or distilled water?" I said, "Mineral water." She said, "Flavored or non-flavored?" I said, "Can you just leave the water? Just give me the empty glass. I'll use it for something." And she said, "You want a glass?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Do you want a tumbler, wine glass, champagne flute, or beer mug?" I said, "Leave the glass. I'll swallow saliva. I'm just okay by myself." The next session very quickly will help us to understand more as we delve into the discussions today. It's easy as we talk around issues that deal with developers, financiers, and opportunities, and identifying sustainable deal structures as well as optimal financing models that support development of renewable energy projects. Our moderator for this session had worked with the Port Harcourt Distribution Company as a Chief Regulatory Officer and Strategic Partnership overseeing business compliance and innovation, including building franchising relations and bringing sustainable power solutions to hard-to-reach and hard-to-manage areas. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present you a power engineer with the African Development Bank overseeing power sector reforms. Is a task manager for the AFDB-funded Nigerian Electrification Project and co-tax managing bank battery energy storage initiatives. Let's welcome Chikoziri Igiru. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up. Can you clap for him, please? Thank you very much. I assure you that in the next 1 hour we'll be done and it will be time to formally eat lunch. Another round of applause for him. Quickly? Yes. Make your opening statement. Okay. There's a timer on that screen there, sir.
Okay. Very good afternoon, everyone, and apologies for keeping you during lunch. We had thought that if you go for this lunch and come back, it will be very difficult for you to see us or even hear us. So, but all the same, we're very hungry with you. So we'll make this very quick so that we can all go grab our food. I have a very long topic today to discuss with people, and I'm going to read it because I can't even memorize it. It talks about opportunities and sustainable deal structures, as well as optimal financing models that support the development of renewable energy projects. So the topic looks quite long, but we'll try to make it inverse so that our discussion will be very short. Typically, this is talking about what are the financing models that we'll have here. I won't waste time. I'll try to bring up people, but just to let you know that my remarks says that there are many models that exist in the system that helps you finance the renewable energy. But Nigeria is a very peculiar place that we're struggling to do the basic thing. We already have many models that have committed to the energy transition plan, which is begging for about $1.9 trillion to finance the power sector. But nonetheless, while we're looking for this money, there is about $130 trillion locking somewhere with the Glasgow Financial Allowance for Net Zero. The question we all ask ourselves today is that, why are we not getting this money? Sitting with some of our colleagues the other day, one of the bankers says that one of the reasons why they don't look at this sector is because it's a high capex industry that's supposed to be low OPEX. But right now, condition has made it both high capex and low OPEX. So unless you believe in voodoo economics, you may want to stay away. So on that note, I have a very simple job today, which is to use the next 20 or 30 minutes to transfer all the questions to my colleagues that I'm going to call here today. My job is actually to ask the question, and their job is to answer them. Again, my name is Chikozri. I work with African Development Bank, and I'm standing here today not on behalf of the bank, but on my own behalf. So I'm responsible for whatever I say, and I hope you'll be responsible for whatever you hear. Very good afternoon. I will be calling people, please to come up the stage as quick as they can. From Amsharit, I'll be calling Adobe Noluka, please to come up the stage. Please, the representative of, I'll be calling the Commissioner of NERC to please come up the stage. Apparently, I don't have the list here, but I know the representatives. I don't have the names. Please, can I have the representative from PowerGen, please, to come up the stage? Abuja Electricity Distribution, AEDC, please, the representative should come up the stage, please. While we're waiting for him, we'll be expecting the representative for InfraCredit to please join us up the stage. And the most important person in the room, who is not the last, representative of NRO Energy, to please join us on stage. Okay, I don't think we're complete. I think we're waiting for one person from Abuja Disco. The colleagues, I would like, as I ask questions, you will please introduce yourself quickly and use basically 2 minutes for your questions. And we'll expect to have questions from the entire team afterwards. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, once again. We'll try to run this very quickly to make sure that we do not waste the time. Like I said earlier, most of the things we are discussing here today will be about sustainable deal structures in renewable energy, looking mostly at the opportunities that will support this as quick as possible. And we have actually articulated a couple of questions to throw light on this. And I will be respectfully starting with our Honorable Commissioner to actually start these questions. Honorable Commissioner, I know very well that you have made a very wonderful presentation here today, so this will almost be like a repetition. For some of us who were opportune to be in the room, I think you answered most of the questions. However, you do agree with me that most of the actions we are doing here cannot happen without a fair regulatory environment, which I'm not blowing the trumpet of the Commission, but I will say that this has really encouraged it, because we from the bank actually, it has enabled a lot of investments from the development institutions, but we know very well that more needs to be done. So I was wondering if you could throw more light on how you think that regulatory and policy frameworks have been impacting financing in the development of the renewable energy. And when I mean impacting both the positive and the negative. And if you consider the negative impacts, what are the improvements and enhancements you think that needs to be made, including the ones you've been making, that will support the investment in the renewable structure? I will be timing you for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chigor, and pleasure to be here. I think you told us to introduce ourselves, right?
Please do.
Okay. I'm Yusuf Ali, I work at NERC. I think with regards to the question you've asked on the importance of regulation for investment in renewable energy, I think the single biggest thing, if you ask the investors in the room, when anybody puts their capital on the table, what they are looking for is regulatory certainty, right? Now, that comes in different flavors. There is a part of it that speaks to the economics, ensuring that you can earn the returns that you are promised. There's something that comes to the issue of transparency, right? So the process through which application is reviewed and so on and so forth. Also something around like the timeliness of the activities of the commission. And I think you raised the point about fairness, right? Ultimately, in any regulated environment, it is expected that if there's any dispute, there is a neutral arbiter in the middle of the conflict that would be fair to all parties. So I think, if I think about it at a macro level, as a commission, what we have done is, at least with the renewable energy space, the mini-grid regulation that we have, embedded generation regulation, these are things that we're looking to always improve to ensure that they speak to the realities of the day. So, I'm conscious of time. I would say the key focus for us is just that we want to ensure that the regulatory instruments that we have are suitable for the problems of the day. And I think this sort of like ties in very well with what will happen tomorrow. We could have easily sat in our office, do some research online, talk to some regulatory partners, and say, okay, this is the focus of our next set of regulations for renewable energy. But we thought it important to actually have this forum, to have the financiers in the room, to have the developers in the room, and the government stakeholders. And I'll close by saying that the reason why it's important to have the financiers in the room is actually that, just like the main grid itself, the renewable energy space in Nigeria doesn't have a technology problem, we have a finance problem. Well, if the finance is set up right, people will make the right investments, and then we can expand the system. Thank you.
Thank you. And I hear you clearly. It's not a technology problem. It is a financing problem. And it is even much more than the financing problem. So somebody has helped me correct my error, which is not having the names of my panelists who are coming on board. So I do have it. I'm going to be taking people by random. It looks very good. I've watched this cartoon where somebody takes their egg from the crate and randomly so that no egg knows when he's going to be fried. So I'm going to try to raise people's palpitation a bit. And so I'm going to go to my brother Sheung Edun, the country director for Power Gen Renewable. And yours is because you've been taking the bites of this sector and been trying to do quite a reasonable amount of work. And thank you for doing that, being a trailblazer with other people. But we know very well that one of the problems you have is credit risk. Who do you talk to when you build this mini grid? When you go into these mini grids that a lot of faces I'm looking at here are supporting, how do you guarantee that your money will come back after building infrastructure? And I think that one of the things that helps do that is community engagement and education. So I was thinking, can you advise other people here who are listening to you, what would be the best way and the best practices that you have seen in community engagement that have actually helped you manage your customers and also enhance your credit risk? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is this working? Okay. Right, thank you. Interesting question. I'll tell you that the success of every mini-grid asset is heavily dependent on the acceptance by the communities. Because if you don't have that, then there's no project, right? And that starts with the community engagement. And community engagement in itself is a continuous thing. We like to think about community engagement like an open book. The community, the stakeholders, they have to know every single project detail, right? From the financing plan to the construction duration to the asset life cycle, right? That's how you bring their involvement in it. They're critical stakeholders and they need to feel like they are making the decisions along with you, right? So when we do community engagements and community surveys, we do them with the UN gold standard at the back of our minds, right? And it's critical to make sure that we achieve all of those SDG goals as stated by the UN gold standard. Like I said, community engagement is a continuous thing. It's the only platform where you earn the trust of the community, their leaders, their stakeholders, and it's the only way they feel a part of those projects. So it's very, very, very essential. It's your first step to feasibilities, really, because if you do not understand their consumer energy needs, if you do not understand what the cultural and environmental biases are, basically you don't have a project. So I would say that community engagement is actually the first thing to do before you set out building out any mini-grid assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and that was great. You haven't let us know that feasibility, credit risk starts from feasibility, and feasibility starts from community engagement, which must be ongoing from time to time. We have to make people own this project that we're building with them, which we are actually not only building for them, but we're also building with them. And I'm pretty sure the commissioner is listening so that maybe they try to make a proper way of having community engagement embedded in development and process of the mini-grid. Nonetheless, for us to go ahead with that, we also have to, outside the feasibility, project timelines are extremely important. Looking at the budget is also very good. And it doesn't only end there. There has to be different business models that we know that work. So I'm going to go to a financier. I'm going to go to Adobe now to ask that, can you please throw a little bit of more light on best practices you have seen from some of your clients for managing project timelines and budget when it comes to renewable energy projects? You may want to give us that explanation together with any business model you know that works, or one or two business models you think that people should adopt because it has been practiced.
Thank you for the question, Chigo. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. When it comes to construction timelines, as any financier would tell you, you want to go as quickly as you can from when you deploy the capital to when you start earning the first naira from that project. And it's important then that when you have your EPC with your contractor, that you align this need with theirs. One of the ways that we've tried to do that is to, one, have very clear BOQs for the project that match the design, that have built-in spares, so that you know that from day one you have everything that you need to operate, have very clear timelines and work plan. We've also had third-party consultants actually supervise the construction to ensure that we are getting the quality of the build that we want and that everything is going according to schedule. This also means that when timelines start to slip, we have early warning of what the challenges are so that we can work with the contractors to resolve them. Sometimes there are things you can't do anything about, like when you have security challenges. There's no amount of planning that will help you stop a bandit from coming to your site or things like that. And that's just part of what it takes to operate in this environment. But outside of the things that are not in your control, ensuring that one, there are penalties or liabilities to the EPC contractor for non-performance is critical, so that they are incentivized as well to stick to the timeline, stick to the budget. Sometimes you have to go the fixed cost route so that everything is planned for ahead of time, the pricing is agreed, which also then enforces the procurement of those equipment. Given the environment that we're in, where FX has been continually depreciating, it's important then that at the moment of financial close, all the equipment associated with the project is procured at that time so that it crystallizes at a price as close to what was agreed as possible. So these are some of those things that we have put in place, working with third parties, having very close supervision and monitoring, identifying challenges ahead of time, deciding how to resolve them going forward so that we can maintain the timelines for the project. And something else that can be considered is some kind of bonus for early completion, for example. That is something that I've seen work in other projects so that they can come in earlier than even projected. When you talk about business models, there are a number that we've seen that can work. When you talk about the embedded space, for example, we've seen the back-to-back contracting that it has taken to have a project like VIPP come to life. And that required all the parties, the commission, the DISCO, developers, the banks, understanding the structure. I think beyond like the business model, I think it's more important for all the parties to be on the same page as to what is trying to be achieved. And what is trying to be achieved doesn't change. You just want to have a clear line of sight from project to revenue and the assurance that the revenue will be collected. Everything else is just like moving around deck chairs on the Titanic, right? You just need to get that confidence in order to raise the financing. So whether it's a franchising model, the contracting just has to have back-to-back to offtake, to payment, to security. If it's embedded, same deal. The challenge that we face in this market is that distribution companies who should be the bastion of creditworthiness are not. And so everything that you're doing is to shore up the creditworthiness of the distribution company to the level that a bank feels happy or an equity provider like us feels happy to actually provide the financing. When it comes to the distributed renewable energy space, typically you will not find an equity player like us in that space. We chose to take this particular subsection of risk, mostly encouraged by the regulation that exists where the sponsors are able to adjust the tariff as required as the indices, macro indices are moving. But realistically, we know that that's not as easily done as said. Sheryl mentioned having strong community engagement is the only way that you can actually have these tariffs adjust without too much pushback. Otherwise, it's in everybody's interest to fight a tariff adjustment. We see that in the larger DISCO scale, same in the mini-grid scale as well. So it's important at that level to have as much engagement as you can with the communities to gain the trust and to gain their understanding so that when it's time to adjust the tariff, you don't have too much pushback. Only comment I will add to that is maybe support from the regulator for those larger projects in terms of when it's time to make those adjustments, that the process goes quickly from sponsor to regulator to sign off on tariff adjustments. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think you had a lot to tell us there, but the most important thing I picked up there is that we'll follow the money. You want the project to work from beginning to the end and also pay back for what it's supposed to pay back without making sure that the tariff kills the people that it's supposed to serve. And I think some of these can be solved also in terms of your request, making sure that by the time you have closure, you should actually start construction going through technology that will be quicker to deploy. And based on that, I'm going to go to my friend in NRO Energy, Mr. Sean Smith, who has been doing most of this work, to let us know, is there any significant impacts of improvements when it comes to distribution assets by looking at innovation in technology? Has innovation in technology really helped for significant improvement in deployment of distribution assets for underserved communities?
Thank you very much for the question. As a developer, we're continually looking out for different innovation activities across the world that can actually help us to provide either a better product to the end user customers or to help lower the costs. Specifically in Nigeria, because customers are extremely price sensitive, innovation for us really focuses on trying to either lower the cost of the materials that we use in our projects or reducing the quantity of materials that are actually used in the project. There are a number of different innovation outputs essentially that are in play today, which we're following very closely. One of them is essentially mesh grids, which is interconnected solar home systems. We know there's a bit of an effort to try and get those going in our local market. So things like that are very close to home, and those are the type of technologies we want to see deployed in the near term as well to support the goal of trying to reduce the cost for the customer. Some of the other innovational technologies that we've seen are a bit longer term in approach. So something that we're looking at coming out of the US is what Form Energy is trying to do with ion air batteries, right? Which is essentially trying to significantly reduce the cost of storage by using iron as an input as against the core lithium ion batteries that we use day to day in most of the industry around the world. But again, that's a bit of a long-term thing. So we're continually looking for innovative technologies. Even within our own organization at NERC, a key thing for us is that we want to try and reduce losses as much as possible. And some of the things we're innovating around is how we can actually carry out surveillance using the IoT system that a smart grid and using smart technologies allows you to do. So it's something software-based that we're developing in-house to be able to help reduce losses and pass on the extra savings from a reduction in losses to the end user customer as well. But if you look at the role of innovation when it comes to securing financing, a lot of the financiers want to depend on tried and tested technology. And so it's very important that developers like us who end up deploying novel technologies share that information with the rest of our peers and also with the financiers as well, so that they can grow confidence around these innovative technologies. And at the end of the day, they have the confidence to finance and support our projects, keeping in mind that we've been able to fully commercialize and test these innovations in the field as well. It's something that we continually try to do, and which we also encourage our peer developers to do. But at the same time, we need to make sure that there's sufficient confidence from the point of view of the financiers before deploying some of those solutions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That was apt, saying that we should adopt technologies like Internet of Things to help use local materials, as well as share knowledge of innovations that comes out here. I do agree with you that there is a heritage problem when it comes to technology. People want to stay with what they know, but it's also important to incentivize early movers like yourself that are always trying to make sure that the system is really very innovative. In the theory of also randomly picking my ex, I will go to I will go to the Vice President of Origination and Structuring of Infra Credit, Ojura Deniji, who should look at this now, because when it comes to securitizing equipments that have not been tested and solutions that have not been tested, that becomes a very, very challenging thing. So I'd like to link that question by saying, if you have looked at this energy market, which you guys have been supporting a lot, you have noticed some promising energy markets and opportunities in the market. But one of the things we know is how can these developers secure their fundings for small-scale and community-based renewable energy initiatives, knowing very well that there is no PPA with these people. But we know that the first year told us that you can actually keep engaging these people and make sure that they're part of it. And the second year one, I'm not taking them in the order says you can reduce your funding by looking for local materials and make sure you are not dollarized. While our honorable commissioner said that they can try to make everywhere comfortable and welcoming to investors. If all these things are in place, are you sure that how do you think, from the work you've been doing, that developers can secure their funding for small-scale and community-based renewable initiative? Thank you.
Thank you, Chigozin. So from us at InfoCredit, one of the things we like to encourage developers to do, essentially, is to have a well-structured company. And I say that because most of the time we've seen how developers have evolved from EPC contractors to become developers, and then, evolve to rescues. Now, when you want funding, you want people to put money in your business, it means that you have to be structured. You have to also be open and transparent to scrutiny. People would ask questions. Any bank you go to today, if you want to borrow money, they can even ask you for your grandmother's certificate. So you need to be open first and willing to share information. That's number one. Number two, you also need to be well structured. So allow people help you, structure your business better so that you're more efficient to deliver results. So some of the transactions that we've done, we found that a number of the developers did not have standard operating procedures as to how they're going to deploy, mini grids in different communities. So we advise that since you've not done this before, we need you to prove the concept that you can actually do it. And in doing that, you need to hire external consultants, right? I mean, because of the type of business we are, we have development partners that are willing to put money behind to help developers, set up standard operating procedures, structures that can help them scale. So as much as possible, we go in and we have those conversations with them. The second thing we would also like is processes as well, or rather the third thing, processes. Having well, crafted processes and tight processes. In fact, processes that can match best practice is one of the things we encourage. Even the people as well, that would be the fourth thing, the people. I know some of the panelists earlier had talked about, the death of human capital in this space. I think having the right people is very important in helping you access funding and also helping you scale. So when you have this together, then you now look at how, financiers themselves can now help you access funding. So you come to InfoCredit and you're well structured. Of course, we'll give you the criteria and we make everything available upfront to you, because the goal is to work with the developer to scale, to become a renewable energy service company. And then we'll provide you this information. We'll help you working alongside consultants to, be well structured. One of the things we also found is that a number of developers want funding, but not all of them want to put skin in the game, right? And we call skin in the game your equity. It's not alone, your sweat equity, but it's really funding that you've made available. You want someone to put some money. Have you yourself put money in the business, right? You want to put mini grids, hundreds of mini grids across different communities. You also need to demonstrate to the financiers that you've also put some money on the ground to get the transaction or to get the projects running. That way, you encourage more financiers to bring in funding into that business. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 10 minutes to go, so I will try to go to the landlord of the house and then come back to everybody for a concluding remark, and the landlord is no other person but the Chief Operating Officer of Abuja Disco, who is my brother in the other life and still in this life. So Chijioke, I was wondering if people decide to put skin in the game, the way Ojuru said, which I'm seeing the head of REA looking at me because I think all his legs and hands are in the game. What will now happen, I will leave that discussion of skin in game or cloth in the game to come later. But if we assume that people have skin in the game, as a disco, do you think that public-private partnership would be an effective way of structuring support for renewable energy development, especially to help with scaling, as everybody's in discussion with scaling? And if in 3 minutes you will be very happy to tell us that, feel free to point to one example or two that you think has been successful. 3 minutes it is, I'm counting for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chigo. So the good thing is I come with a background in renewable energy and currently in the disco, so I can relate with both worlds. I can tell you confidently that the best way to go about this is a collaboration. And I think the discos are open to that now. And I could point to some use case of such collaboration that is yielding good results. So discos are able to use collaboration with developers using renewable energy to bring them back, customers who are off-grid back to the grid. Abuja Disco is doing something in that regard. Currently, we have wood factory, 650 kilowatts installation, and they've been completely off-grid, but now we're able to create a solution where we can give them a levelized cost of energy that is realistic, cheaper than diesel, and at the same time provide them the level of reliability they need. So what you will see is that most of your big customers who are pulling off the grid are actually pulling off because of the unreliability of the grid. So fluctuations, transients, gets them to affect their business, like those who are in the plastic industries, those who are in the process industries. But when you integrate with a DRE solution that normally will come with a battery, you're able to filter out most of that. And at the same time, the disadvantage you have in running a standalone mini-grid solution where you either provide for only daytime load, or you need to invest in excessive battery storage, or you need to use diesel. That aspect is completely taken away. So interconnected mini-grids, interconnected C&I solution is starting to find acceptance among the distribution companies. And I'm happy to say that AEDC is championing this. We have a couple of projects we're already trying to roll out in this regard. I've talked about the wood factory. We have the Buhari project. That is actually a project where we are embedding the DRE on the grid. So I think the partnership works. It provides reliability. It reduces the LCOE of energy, and it actually also brings confidence to the customer, because when you are able to demonstrate this, what you see is that more customers can see such solutions that have worked and are willing to partner and sign up. So I say the partnership should go on as it works.
Thank you, Chijioke. And I hear that partnership works, collaboration works. It must not be PPP, but any form of collaboration that makes it easy for the investor and easy for the customer, as well as make sure that we text technology and make sure that that works. So right now we have 6 minutes, and apparently I have 6 of you, so everybody has 1 minute. So keep an eye on somebody and on that clock to whosoever take your own time. And I'm going to Sheung of Power Gen, whom I call Sheung 1. Please go ahead, just make a list. What makes it difficult for you to access capital for your projects? Give me a list.
Tough to answer in a minute.
Call them 1, 2, 3. I just want to hear
It's
them.
the mismatch of the expectations, right, between the developers, the financiers, and the market, right? That's the big elephant, right? The balance between the levelized cost of electricity and the the socio-politically acceptable tariffs, for example, right? So we have to start thinking through more concessional facilities, more grants, more subsidies, and maybe even a broader subsidy now, not just targeted at the initial tariff alone, but targeted at the risk factors throughout the asset's life. Or else, it won't be investable, it won't be bankable, and the investors would walk away because tariff cannot be below the LCOE. Thank you.
Levelized cost of energy stands out in the room. So let's remain on the scheme. So I'm going to the second scheme of Enaro, and for you to let me know two things you think that will be an element you need between the developers and financiers, that once you have it in a deal, you will say that that deal is sustainable for renewable energy development. Two things you say, if you find them in the deal, you will be very sure that it works for both the developer, works for the financier, and that deal will be sustainable. Sean, please.
Thank you. I think given the nature of how infrastructure financing in Nigeria is evolving as of today, one of the key things that is required, and which was spoken to a little bit earlier at some of the earlier panels, is scale. We're moving from a scenario in which some of the smaller, isolated or interconnected mini-grid projects are going to be funded in a single scenario. And we're moving to a situation in which, multiple projects are going to be assessed, are funded at the same time. And this helps a lot of things. It helps, in terms of the minimum ticket required for these transactions, from a financier's point of view. Because also you are taking a portfolio approach, you are significantly reducing risk. So if you're having a challenge with one particular project, revenues from another project can essentially try and make up for that. So taking this portfolio approach and looking for scale when you're looking for a project helps to make it sustainable in the long term. Another area in which we can also consider sustainability and helping to make those deals sustainable is historical performance. We talked a little bit about needing subsidies, but then in the long term, if we're able to come to a situation in which the requirement for a subsidy is reduced, then you end up with a situation or a scenario in which there's more confidence from the financier's point of view, and you can go on to do multiple projects, given your track record, given your historical performance of being able to conclude deals without too much of a subsidy. So with those two elements, you can essentially generate sustainable deals and look at significant growth of the industry, as well as significant financing from local infrastructure investors who want to back companies like us in that space.
Thank you, Sharon. And I hear that a portfolio approach looks like one of the good deals, and that takes me to Dr. Yusuf Ali, our commissioner, to say what regulatory frameworks that you've been developing in mini-grid, which is quite laudable, and you've been doing, is been an exemplary approach to all the regulations when it comes to mini-grid, and FDB job in ERI confirms that. Do you think that this regulatory framework needs to be improved for the growth of renewable energy, especially looking at what Shenwe is talking about when it comes to working in portfolio systems? Commissioner, 1 minute.
No worries, I won't take long. I think you can think of regulations as junior legislations, right? And there's a popular saying that says that a legislation is due for amendment the day it is passed. So ultimately, there is nothing that would indicate that our regulation cannot be improved any further. And I think the good thing is, as the Vice Chairman mentioned earlier, we don't have doors. If there's any pending issue that you think needs to be addressed with the regulation, we're happy to amend it. Now, obviously, the biggest elephant in the room is on the issue of capacity, 5 megawatts versus 1 megawatt. That's a bit more complicated than what we can discuss here. But I would say that we don't have the monopoly of wisdom, right? So anybody that has any cogent reason to want something amended in the regulation, we're more than happy to consider it. If it's something that we can do unilaterally, we'll make the amendment issue. If not, we'll expose it to wider stakeholder consultation in line with the business rules of the Commission. And whatever the output comes from that, we'll then pass it through the regulation.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner, and I will advise the developers and the financiers here to take the open ticket that have been given to them. If you need anything amended, please do not cry at the background. Go straight to the Commission to get it amended. I can hear the microphone you're knocking, so give us 2 minutes. We're stealing it from people here. Since they're hungry, I'm very sure they will be glad to give it to us. And that takes me to Ada. Ada, if you look at the key risk that have been in the associated in the financing of renewable energy, people are afraid to put in their money, like I mentioned earlier. I just want you to use just 1 minute, if you can try to tell us what strategies you think that can be used to mitigate 1 or 2 risks. If anybody want to hear more, they can catch you during the lunch.
Thank you, Chigo. I think somebody mentioned about the misalignment in expectations between financiers, sponsors, and the market. And I think that's very critical, because if you're doing equity in a market like Nigeria, even in Naira, you're looking for returns in excess of 30-something% just to give an equity type return to a financier, right? If you're getting debt, commercial debt is at 26, 27, unless you have access to concessional financing. If you take those two as standalone, you cannot do a mini-grid project. And even with a grant, you're only probably getting to the point where it might sustain itself. And that's with proper site selection, wonderful community engagement, everything as it should be. Not many mini-grids pass the mark. So when someone says you need grants, it might be like, well, everybody wants grants, everybody wants subsidy. The question is, in real terms, a mini-grid is a utility on its own. And so the entry costs are quite high. We try to use a benchmark for how much of the total capex can the grant cover. Really, you want to find yourself in a place where your recurring revenue is not trying to finance the project, because we know that that isn't sustainable in the long run, given where things are today in the market, with local financing not being very affordable from the context of a mini-grid, and for equity capital needing to have such a high return to beat inflation and to give value in excess of somebody just putting their money in a government bond or treasury bills. So that's one key thing that I'm always looking out for. This project, how much does the grant offset? How much can the cash flows pay back over time? What are the likelihood of growth over time? I think that's one that's easily overlooked by a lot of developers. It's not the primary project that delivers sustainability, it's growth over time. So what is the growth potential of the site? What is the likelihood of improving the livelihood of the people who live in that community so they can afford to use more electricity, and you can then grow from there. And that's the path to sustainability in the long run.
All right, so what I hear in sustainability is that ability to pay and willingness to pay must be matched. Even though people may have the willingness to pay, if they do not have the ability to pay, you have to do something to make sure that they have the ability to pay. Taking me to what my brother Sean said, that engaging people, knowing what their problems are, understanding how you can help them so that the whole program will be sustainable is important. That's also for the financiers to know that financing rural development and rural electrification can never be a profitable venture. Most times, if you even look at it in terms of grid extension, the urban area subsidizes the rural area most of the times. We don't have to remove that from the back of my mind when we are transferring this to the developers of mini-grid, knowing very well they're also using expensive technologies and others. As I've taken other people's time, I will quickly not, instead of between the man and the woman, I will choose the woman. And since the landlord is here with us, when questions come, I think here we go. So I will go with Ojuru to actually ask you if you can also try to give me 1 minute to tell me what are the most effective strategies you have seen that have been used to scale up projects. Just 2 and 1 minute. If you want me to be counting for you, I can do that.
Okay, Chigozie, don't worry, I'll be done quickly. So I'll address 2 things. One is perception of risk. Given that the DRE space is a nascent space, right? Not many people understand it, it's new, it's upcoming, and the projects are small scale in nature. So at InfoCredit, how we try to address risk was by having risk sharing, let's say strategies. One is the climate finance blended facility, which we've used to close a number of transactions. It has enabled them, access funding. Now, the way we applied the grant was treated as a mezzanine debt, right? It's quite different from the way a traditional bank would, look at that grant. Another thing, again, is really around, how concessional funding, because a lot of the developers want to access low-cost financing, but because of the nature of the industry, they're unable to do that. So that's a concern that we're also able to address with that type of product. It's innovative, it's different, it's not something that has been done before. The other one is the risk-sharing facility that we have, right? The FSD Africa also puts in £10 million. So that enables us, access funding for DRE spaces or DRE customers in that space. The second thing I'd also like to address is sustainability. So when you set up a mini grid, you also need to consider how sustainable will it be. Someone here had already mentioned that it's either you're putting too much excess battery, investments in excess battery or not. So rather than investing so much in battery, you want it to be more sustainable. And a way to make it more sustainable, you need to embed what we call productive use of energy. You don't want to just provide power to just residential. You also want to have some economic, integration even embedded in your mini grid. That way you're sustainable and then you can scale. So one of the projects we found, I think it was Darwin Coast, we saw that a lot of the processors, they had organized themselves in a very nice way, the oil palm processors within certain communities, and they wanted more energy to scale, to provide more, to be able to be more efficient. And the other way for them to be able to be more efficient is to deploy mini grids to that space. You have during the daytime, these people are connected, the processors are connected. At the night, the residential homes are also connected. That way, you're able to generate more revenue and not heavily reliant on grants to sustain the business. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you, Ojuru. And we have stolen half of the time of the crowd, so we'd like to take it back to them because it wouldn't be, I've seen some people started folding their hands, so I don't know who has a microphone. We'd like to entertain questions now. 3 maximum. And the good thing about our session is that after this session, we are going for lunch. So you can mark everybody's faces and go to their table. So if your question is not answered. 3 questions. Please give the microphone. You, please start.
Thank you very much, the panelists. I so much share their views, their contributions. And I have come to realize that since we're talking about DRE and I'm working for Enugu Disco, coming from advisory, I've seen that scaling up as a portfolio for DRE will be a better option where we'll be able to make it sustainable, integrating it with the national grid so that the average energy costs will be reduced. Now, if you look at the presentation I did, we made it in clusters where these can be taken up as a portfolio rather than as isolated investments. Now, I want to put it to 4 members of the panelists. That's Ojiri, the NERC Commissioner, Adobe, and you, Chigozie. You're coming from ADB, RM, InfraCredit. So, 4 of you should provide us a working mechanism to make it bankable, because Ojiri coming from providing guarantee, NERC providing a very conducive regulatory framework, Adobe providing advisory, you providing finance from African Development Bank. All the discos will have a deal in this DER. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it seems like you just formed a committee of 4 people, which will allow the Honorable Commissioner to commission after, and then we'll answer that question. You can meet us after lunch. Next question. And thank you for nominating me in that very regard. But just before the question, will any of us, I will appoint 1 person to answer the question? I can take that, actually, so that it doesn't look like we left you. And what you said is very good. In the bank finance Nigeria electrification project, we worked together with the World Bank collaboratively to test two processes. One of the processes we tested was what we call minimum subsidy tender, and that minimum subsidy tender launch used the portfolio approach. We did work with the stakeholders, did quite a reasonable amount of consultation, and did understand that if you take sites that are like 50 kilowatts that the commissioner explained and other people explained here, and you have like a 1 megawatt site, the costs are different, okay? But if you put them together and even put them in a region that is contiguous, they can have very low operation costs and of course work very well. I think most of the discuss have started approaching that. That is even for the standalone mini grid. I think it will go further to help when it comes to the interconnected mini grid, in which case you will solve the problem that Chijoke did mention, reduce the cost of battery, reduce the cost of storage, and also find other optimal solutions, like Sean said, bringing equipments that people think might not have been tested but may be very good and provide cheaper costs. So yes, this is being considered. But you made a very good request, which I think the Commission will take into consideration, most probably form a committee that will look into this and say, should things be done in portfolio basis, or can things still be done in standalone, or can all of them still coexist and achieve what you want to achieve? And thank you for your presentation that time. I saw it was really very good. Next question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, the panelists. My question goes to the four people that have been nominated just by the last questionnaire. I'll put it to us, renewable energy enthusiasts in this hall, that we cannot at this stage say that there are no capacities that are being built to support the renewable energy industry. Yes, we may still have some gap, but over the past couple of years, we've seen capacities built. My question to this set of people is, what are the efforts, are there frameworks that has been developed to mop up the efforts of startups in this regards to enable us support perhaps the preliminary stages of project development, the acquisition of lands, the EIA or the ESMP, or those preliminary processes that are usually also capital intensive, to enable them come up to a point where they could qualify, as I think the infra credit president has mentioned, that they must have some structure on ground. What are the efforts that are being made to bring these people up to this level to enable this scale up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll give that, instead of you nominating for, I will nominate two on your behalf. So I'll give that question to a jury to look at it, knowing that they have had some people come through, start up to them. And when she finishes using her just 1 minute, which is 60 seconds, I want to reinforce it's 60 seconds. I'll go to Shenwe Dun, who has also started this, have seen competition in the field for startups, maybe advise them on what needs to be done. So I'd like if two of you are happy to do that. Share 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for your question. So one of the things we found in, would I say, solving for the challenge of energy access was that there's no institutional model that addresses some of these problems that you've highlighted. So together with the World Bank and REA, we're setting up a facility that would address some of those concerns. It's more like support. We've seen that at project preparation stage, a number of developers are not able to get it right. So this facility will solve those type of issues where you have project preparation, project development, and it's an institutional model that would address very key problems. And I say that because InfoCredit has learned from evaluating over 40 DRE projects, and we found common issues that are repeated across all the developers. So that model is going to solve some of those challenges, and that's the way that we can support in that space. I did well with the time.
Sean, I don't know whether you can give advice to younger ones coming up.
Right. My view is that the greatest challenge for the smaller developers, as you say, is the lack of data and information on the commercial viability of these projects, right? And a lot of the smaller organizations cannot afford the right level of feasibilities, right, that go into getting detailed data. So I think a lot of technical assistance is still required from the commission, from donor organizations as well. A lot of technical assistance in aggregating data, right, on these communities. This would help our young developers a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Somehow I'm seeing about 5 hands, but I may need to slightly disappoint you because I've been having people coming by my side and saying that some people are crying that the food is getting cold. So in as much as we have loved to do this, I think that we have quite a lot of questions. Ask me to close. So I would say thank you everyone for coming around. We're still going to be outside during lunch. I'm pretty sure the commission is going to work in tandem with the promoters to actually flow this online in case there will be further questions. Please come back tomorrow. And I want to say to everybody, Commissioner Dr. Yusuf Ali, I'm the Director of Power Gen, Sheung Edun, my sister, the Investment Director at Arms Harriet, Adobe Noroka, the Vice President of Origination and Structure at Infra Credit, my sister, Ojura Deniji, and the CEO of Enaro Energy, Sheung Smith, and Chief Operating Officer of Abuja Disco, my brother Chijoko, whom I allowed to say only one thing because he has quite a lot to say. Thank you all for coming, and for everyone, thank you for honoring this invitation. And for some of you, your questions are not answered. See you at lunch.
Thank you very much. We'll take the group photograph. We'll invite the Vice Chairman to do the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I appeal to us to remain seated. We are not done. We are not done. Please, let's remain seated. We'll take just one more item and then we'll be done, please. We'll take one more item. We have been told that they just set fire to the food, so it will just start warming. In the next 5 minutes, we will take it. Panelists, it's good to smile. Please just smile. Let's clap for them, please. So very quickly, we'll take one more item and then we'll be done. May I quickly invite for the introduction of the Nigeria SC for All platform, your tool guide for the project planning. And to help us do this, of course, will be the technical advisor for the Nigerian Energy Support Program, funded by the EU and the German government. Let's invite Madam Ifeoma Linda Obiasogu. Please put your hands together for her as she comes up. Can we clap for her, please? Very quickly, we'll just take this and then we'll say a little thank you. I want to appeal to us to be seated, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, quick one. How do I see my slides?
Please, let's be seated. We'll just take this and quickly. Lunch is not served yet. And if you go there also, it's after this paper we are going to share the meal tickets. So if you don't have a meal ticket, they may not allow you to eat. Just wait. Thank you very much.
Is it going to be sharing today?
Yes, yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to take this very quickly. I think I should apologize, but then, apologies, I'm keeping you this late, but I will have to make this very quick. So I'm going to quickly introduce you to the Nigeria SC for All platform. So while the initiative for sustainable energy for all came up, of course, we all know that it's a global initiative. The idea was for nations to go back to their countries to set out agenda or actionable steps that they can take to achieve this sustainable energy for all. So one of the quick things that the Nigerian government did through the Federal Ministry of Power and in collaboration with the Nigerian Energy Support Program was to set up the Energy Central Database Management System. The idea of this platform was to provide market intelligence. So there were questions about how do you help startups, how do they know where to start, how do they do this, how do they do that. So the idea also was that this central database management system was going to help achieve most of these things. But just a quick introduction to the Nigerian Energy Support Program is a technical assistance program funded by the European Union and the German government. Currently, we are in our third phase, and the idea is to contribute to Nigerian energy transition plan
through increased access to energy and energy efficiency measures. So currently, we've been able to tackle some of the questions people are asking, and the idea of bringing it open is that if you still need help, I don't know if you can see my slides. So if you still need help in any of these sectors, it's something you can come up to us. So at this point, we have training partners across all geopolitical zones open to, and they have these RE certification programs that are open to startups, mini-grid developers, because we want to build capacity. Strengthening capacities both in the public and the private sector is also one of the strengths of the Nigerian Energy Support Program. So in starting this planning for electrification and also to improve RE, we had to ask a lot of questions. One of the major problems for DISCOs now, they talk about losses, which is very crucial, even at this point, that is yet to be addressed. So there were questions about where are the grids, where are they damaged? The DISCOs that talked about, oh, they are damaged, they've been vandalized. What is the problem? Where is the population that is even without this access? So these were many parts of the critical questions that we had to ask to start this intervention. And in general, we were able to summarize it into these 4 categories of where people live, to the extent, the number of people in those places, what is the demography, who is served, who is underserved, what are the amenities happening there, where are the public infrastructure, is there a healthcare center there, is there a bank there, what is actually existing in this community. And very importantly is what are the socio-economic activities happening in those communities. So when we talk about de-risking projects, these are some of the information you should understand, because before we started in our steps towards achieving this thing, we did a lot of stakeholder consultation. And these were some of the problems that were brought to our notice that people needed to get information on. And that is what we have gone down to solve. Now, some other questions about grid. Where are the existing grids? What are the operational data? If you want to expand, what do you need and all that? And it's very important to note this data need because it might be peculiar either to your state, either to your DISCO, either to the portfolio of projects that you are having for people that are financiers and investors. So one of the key things that we did was that we rolled out this data collection strategy to map all the medium voltage grids in Nigeria, because this is going to help in grid planning. And this we have been doing in line with DISCOs and also the state governments in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Power. So we have this, and as at this time, we have a database that is showing all the electrical assets and their condition assessment. Going further down, we had to ask question of where are people living and how do they live? So in the question of how do they live, we were able to get the final stage of this process gave us information. What you have on your screen is a village in Oyo that we visited that as at the date of the survey had no grid infrastructure presence, had a market day on Wednesday, has about 3,000 traders, and the major sources of activities that are being performed. As at this point, we had this survey when fuel was like 168 and people were paying 200 for it. I mean, as a developer, what insight do you get? And you find out that 75% of these 3,000 farmers have gensets. It means that they need the energy, but it's not coming to them. Are these the kind of information that you need to de-risk your project? Are these the kind of information you need to plan? Of course, we know that this information are necessary, and we had to answer these questions to even help the startup, the people that are in the field, to come up with bankable projects for financiers. And even as a financiers, what does it mean for you? You already know who are going to be the off-takers of this power when a developer comes to you, that they are going to a particular community. Another question that I know that will be in the minds of all is the data accessible? Yes, the data is accessible on nigeriaLC4all.gov.ng. It's open to all. You can go there, and there are, on landing, you're going to see it as a website, 2 ways to access this data. By the right top corner, you are going to see mini grids. There you have off-grid and interconnected, and down parts, you can also access the apps that are on it. You can be able to see this information. You can be able to go to the data manager to download and get more insights from this. And very importantly for us is the mini-grid monitor, where you can monitor the performance of your existing and commissioned mini-grids. Another way also you can get the data sets we have is that we have a printed atlas that contains information on the 700 viable communities that we have visited across Nigeria for both off-grid and interconnected mini-grids, which is also downloadable as an e-copy on our platform. On the screen, what you can see is an idea of what the website looks like so that you don't look lost. But then tomorrow, we can deep dive into site selection. I think I heard Ada saying that proper site selection is actually very important. Even as a financier, these are things that they are looking out for. I also heard her talk about improving PUEs, productive use of energy. And these are part of the things we are trying to upscale using this data set, using this platform to support developers, to support financiers, to support the Nigerian government. And we hope that we upscale the REA in achieving our energy transition plans and our 3030 goals. Quickly, is just the mini-grid monitor. What I'm just going to show here are what the interface looks like. But then you can reach out to us. I have my colleagues around. You can reach out to me, and then we can help you gather whatever information, whatever data, whatever insights you might need from this platform. For discos that are here, what does this mean for you? For developers that are here, what does this mean for you? KYC. You talk about losses. Do you have a proper KYC? This platform is going to give you insight to this and help you develop whatever you need to achieve this. You are able to categorize your customers. You're able to segregate your, you're able to segment your customers in the way that it makes sense for your business and your operations. Now, are you here to also, I think this also answers the question of going forward, to have your demand assessment, to plan your distribution network. When we start talking about REA, I think at this stage, most of the REA are going to be injected at the distribution level. I think at this point, Nigeria has not gotten to that stage of course, we are working towards that, but then at this point, we just inject at the distribution level. Do you think this is going to help your disco to plan? Even you as a project developer that wants to sell cross-border, I think Yola was trying to advertise that you can sell cross-border. Do you think this information will help you plan? Of course it will. You can reach out to us and we can talk deeper on things you can achieve on this platform. Your generation system can be planned, and most importantly, your financial analysis. Because we also advise developers to create scenarios. Scenarios that are bankable, scenarios that can help you to develop a project that is not bound to fail, but then to be sustainable. Lastly, I'm just going to mention that we have capacity building measures, which are physical and also virtual. And this capacity building measure goes from your site selection, to your remote assessment, to the analysis of the data set you have, to your demand modeling, your supply scenarios, your generation and system sizing, your distribution network design, just like a holistic pipeline of your project development. That we also offer to startups, to REA developers, and we have some specialized modules for discos because we understand that the operations might actually differ. So with that, I have come to the end of my presentation, and this is just to highlight some of the things that we have at NESP. Feel free to reach out to me. I think most of my colleagues are seated by the rear at the, okay, this is my right, but then of course your left. So feel free to reach out to any of us, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, another round of applause for her. She promised to deliver within time, and she actually did. So just before we go to eat, we will take a simple recap, and then someone will just tell us thank you before we go and eat. I want to assure you that this is the last thing we will do today before we go. Maybe one more, but just this is the last thing, I promise you. And the person who has been prepped to do this for us is none other than the Deputy General Manager, Planning, Research and Strategy. That's the PRS division of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. He's been working hard with us. He knows every details. And please put your hands together as I invite Dr. Yusuf Abdusalam to do us the honors of saying thank you. We'll do a little recap and then he will tell us thank you. Please clap for him properly, please.
Thank you very much. I'm just to give you the simple recap, which I know all of us were from the beginning. In when we had the minister addressed us here, and then we had sessions, panel sessions, both from the business side, from the developer sides, and then we also had the pitching by the discourse, all geared towards making this workshop a success. As we come to the end of today's session, I'm happy. I'm very happy to tell you that we have done well all, and we should put hands for ourselves all for the workshop we have done as well. And then I would like to extend my gratitude on behalf of the organizers to our minister who was here with us, the legislators who were here with us, and all of the distinguished guests who are here with us to make this workshop a success. I also want to thank the captain of industries that have been here with us to pitch their investment portfolio to the investors. The financiers were here, all the investors were here. We thank you all. And for our presenters and panelists who discussed with us insightfully on the program, share with us their knowledge and their experience with us. We thank you all. And for the attendees, all of us who have participated at the workshop, without the audience, then there is no workshop. So we thank you for being here, for your attentive, for your frank discussion and questions. We thank you all. And I will also want to thank all of us who had participated at the beginning to make the workshop what it is today. As we go for our lunch, I wish us to keep thinking about what we have discussed: renewable energy, embedded generation, franchising, all we have discussed today to make our country go green and also sustainable development become part of what we use to ensure and enhance energy access in the country. Thank you very much as we go for lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we clap for him? They say when you clap for other people, it renews your energy. Remember, we're talking about renewable energy. And we are going for lunch to renew our energy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben 200, half human, half amazing. This is how we close today. We are going to rise, take the national anthem, and remember, please, for those of you who are going for lunch, those of us who have tickets, who have name tags, the names on it, with your name on it, those are the ones who will be going into the hall. The rest of us who don't have name tags or don't have our names printed on our name tags, that means you maybe did your registration today. You just wait behind. Someone will come and give you a separate allocation as to where to go and have lunch. But if you have your name properly written on your tag, you are the first set of people to be admitted into the hall. There will be somebody at the entrance there who will give you a meal ticket. We'll use it together to access food. Please, if you had come to this place before,
in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hang on to our children
Thank you very much. Launch yourself in the other hall.